Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution, and it's the fall of America. What has Trump gotten us into? Messing with China was a big mistake. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. Hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Let's get to the content. Salute.
2,500 years ago, ancient Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu said something so profound it is now describing the current situation between the United States and China. In war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. 2 weeks ago, China shocked the world when it announced sweeping new export controls for rare earth minerals. From now on, any product containing even 0.1% of Chinese rare earths must get Beijing's approval before being exported. This announcement absolutely shocked the US government because while Donald Trump has been loudly threatening tariffs and trade wars, China quietly struck at America's weakest point, its total dependence on Chinese rare earths. The US government quickly shifted to panic mode, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publicly insulting Chinese government officials, lobbying for emergency powers from the White House, and announcing to everyone, this is China versus the world. But Beijing's response was calm and calculated, with a senior government official stating, China's stance is consistent. We do not want a tariff war, but we are not afraid of one. This single line says everything, because while Trump tweets threats, China is playing Sun Tzu's The Art of the War, and even Donald Trump himself admitted that while he can threaten China with additional 100% tariffs, this will never be sustainable for the U.S. economy.
If you put that 100% tariff on top of what's in place already, you're at 157% tariff on China. Can that stand?
No.
What is that going to do to the economy?
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. I think we're going to do fine with China. I get along great with him. He's a very strong leader, a very, amazing man. And you look at what he's done and what he's, where his life is an amazing story. It's a story for a great movie.
This interview was a breakthrough moment in the US-China trade war, because how can Trump ever gain leverage against China when he personally admitted his policies are unsustainable in the long term? Deep down, Trump knows that China has the upper hand, and it's probably why he immediately shifted to complimenting China's president. Trump and Xi will meet at the end of this month in South Korea, as both leaders are scheduled to attend the 2025 APEC summit. But as this trade war shifts to a new phase, one thing is becoming incredibly clear, and this Bloomberg article says the quiet part out loud. The US has no China policy, no strategy, and no clue. The heart of the issue is the US government failing to recognize China's rare earth export bans are a mirror image of Washington's own sanctions. Only this time, it's the US that's being cut off. Rare earth minerals are the foundation of modern technology. The magnets inside EV motors, the guidance systems of fighter jets, the chips inside smartphones, the sensors in missiles. And China controls 70% of global mining, 90% of processing, and 93% of magnet manufacturing. But here is where things get interesting, because China has prepared for this trade war much more diligently than the US. Just listen to insider Sean Ryan, who has written 4 best-selling books on China, break down the truth.
The Chinese, instead of buying semiconductors from the United States, from NVIDIA and Intel, they've spent hundreds of billions of dollars of building up their own homegrown indigenous innovation semiconductors. Instead of buying American beef, they're now buying beef from our allies in Australia. Instead of buying soybeans from America, they're now buying soybeans from our allies in Argentina and in Brazil. Instead of buying oil from America, they're now buying from our allies, Canada. Anything that America can produce, except for ethane, China can produce or buy elsewhere.
Despite the US government preaching to the world, it holds all the cards in its high-stakes poker game with Beijing. Researchers across the United States are sounding the alarm bells. Just look at this graph from Harvard University, which shows the complexity of exports from the US and China. China exports lots of advanced tech to the US that would be hard to source anywhere else. We actually witnessed this firsthand back in May, when China first halted rare earth mineral exports to the US. Within a week, US factories producing everything from F-35 stealth fighters and Patriot missiles to Ford's F-150 pickup trucks were grinded to a halt. That single week was a wake-up call inside Washington. For the first time, Trump's team realized China wasn't just reacting, it was dictating the pace of this trade war. Inside the White House, frantic calls came from defense contractors, automakers, and even the Pentagon. Without Chinese magnets, the US couldn't build its jets, its EVs, or many of its missiles. Ford CEO Jim Farley admitted, "We shut down plants for 3 weeks because we cannot get high-powered magnets." That's when Trump finally showed Xi Jinping, not to threaten him, but to negotiate. But if you really want to see where this trade war is going and how dangerous this could get for the United States, just listen to NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang reveal the truth about how the US government is quickly eroding the potential of America's most important company.
We went from 95% market share to 0%. I can't imagine any policymaker thinking that that's a good idea. That whatever policy we implemented caused America to lose one of the largest markets in the world to 0%. China is the second largest computer market in the world. It is a vibrant ecosystem. I think it's a mistake for the United States to not participate.
This is an incredible insight, as NVIDIA, the world's largest and most valuable company with a $4 trillion market cap, is now 100% out of China for 2025 and expecting zero sales. You see, this is where things get very difficult for the US, because one of the biggest questions we often ask for the future of our world is which country is going to win the AI race? Will it be the United States or will it be China? Once again, Jensen Huang shares an incredible insight as he basically concludes the United States government is effectively giving China the golden opportunity to win this race in the long term.
50% of the world's AI researchers are in China. China is 30% of the technology industry, technology market. The Chinese market is large. They've got 1 billion users. And so it's not a market that you could easily decide to walk away from if your ultimate goal is for America to win the AI race. Giving up 30% of the world's market right from the get-go, and then not allowing American technologies to diffuse and be proliferated around the world, we are essentially isolating American technology into America and forfeiting and conceding the rest of the world to everybody else.
This might be the most important interview for US policymakers to understand. If American companies like NVIDIA are banned from exporting to China, then the Chinese will just build their own systems. Instead of slowing Beijing down, the export bans are actually accelerating China's self-reliance and giving it a long-term edge in artificial intelligence. As Huang puts it, if America truly wants to win the AI race, it needs its chips, GPUs, and software powering the entire world, including China. Otherwise, Washington isn't containing China, it's surrendering the AI future to it. For over a decade, Xi Jinping has been executing a plan to make China indispensable to global supply chains. Back in 2015, he launched Made in China 2025 to dominate frontier industries, robotics, batteries, rare earths, and AI. 5 years later, he told senior party officials that tightening the world's dependence on China would create a powerful countermeasure against foreign pressure. And that's exactly what we're witnessing today. By eliminating its reliance on others and deepening theirs on China, Beijing built an economic deterrent as effective as any military weapon. Trump may talk tough, but he's playing a game that China designed over a decade ago. But now that leads us to arguably the most important geopolitical question in the world right now. How long can China play the rare earths card? French geopolitical analyst Arnaud Bertrand argues that this advantage isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, it may be permanent. Many Western policymakers believe that the rare earth stranglehold could be broken with a few regulatory changes or new subsidies, but that's wishful thinking. The truth is, China's dominance runs far deeper. This isn't about a single factory or a few new mines. It's about the entire industrial ecosystem China has built over 4 decades, from education and workforce training to power infrastructure to complete vertical integration across every stage of production. Take, for example, gallium, a soft metal vital for modern semiconductors and military radar systems. China controls 98% of global gallium production, and reproducing even a fraction of that outside China will require over $140 billion in investments, 6 new nuclear reactors, tens of thousands of skilled workers, and decades of planning. And that's just for one of the 21 elements under China's export controls. Multiply that scale across the entire supply chain, and you begin to understand the sheer size of China's lead. This is why Arnaud concludes that China's advantage isn't just technological, it's systematic. Breaking that grip would require nothing less than a new industrial revolution in the West, rebuilding education, manufacturing, and capital systems from the ground up. So when Treasury Secretary Bessent panics about China weaponizing rare earths, he's right to be worried, because for the foreseeable future, this isn't a temporary tactic. It's a permanent advantage for China. But now I want to switch to the investing portion of today's video and show
that that's a good idea. That whatever policy we implemented caused America to lose one of the largest markets in the world to 0%.
They can't be trusted with the global supply chain.
They're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years.
What's striking is how little China has had to do. Europe tripped itself up. The Dutch shot themselves in the foot. Trump rattled his own markets. And European automakers are already panicking. Beijing's smartest move right now is simply to wait, because Western missteps are accelerating de-dollarization and building the multipolar world for them. When you take action without really thinking things through, bad repercussions can be a blowback. It's mind-boggling to realize that no thinking is being done. And as a result, this week alone, we've seen chaos from US markets to European car manufacturers, thanks to actions by their leaders. Let me break down what happened this week, from the chaos in Europe's car industry to the roller coaster in US markets, and finally to why gold has surged to 30% of global reserves. It's all connected. Let's start with Europe. The Netherlands, which is an itty-bitty country in Europe, famous for its overpriced but beautiful tulips, decided to take on the might of China and expropriated Nexperia out of the blue under fears of hitting the US entity ban list. Nexperia is owned by Wingtech, a Chinese company, since 2018. That's 7 years ago. Well, it's boomeranged big time, because China turned around and stopped exporting specific finished components and sub-assemblies manufactured in the country, including the 6 billion chips that Nexperia packages in China each month. Now, this has led to fears that the European car manufacturing industry may quickly come to a halt. Car makers are howling in pain. ACA, the European Union's auto association, which represents most of the major Europe-based automakers, including BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Honda, and so on, they've screeched the alarm bells that European vehicle manufacturing is about to face significant disruption if Nexperia, as it has declared, no longer guarantees the delivery of their chips to the automotive supply chain. Now, Nexperia is an important high-volume supplier of semiconductor chips. They're used in the electronic control units of vehicle electrical systems. They're not high-tech at all, but large volumes are needed. So when supplies are being cut off from China, it means that production of cars may have to be stopped. Now, to put that into perspective, what does that mean for the European Union? Over 8% of EU GDP is generated by the auto industry, and almost 14 million Europeans work in the automotive sector. Now, the Dutch government's actions could blow up in the face of all the European governments. Court documents showed that the Dutch government's move came after rising US pressure on the company. Nexperia was at risk of being impacted by the new US rules that just came out, extending export control restrictions to companies that were at least 50% or more owned by one or more entities on that US banned entity list. Washington put Wingtech, which has that 100% ownership of Nexperia, on that US list in late December 2024. And the new rule on subsidiaries was ruled out this month by the Trump administration, over which we're seeing this latest tit-for-tat actions between China and the USA, with the Chinese saying that this action on putting more and more Chinese companies onto the banned list is breaching their trust that was being held during the trade talks. In my last vlog, I did a whole rundown on what the Dutch have done, what's motivated them, and the consequences this will have. Do check that out if you've not seen the whole story on Xperia. Well, it's not just stopping in Europe. Now the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which represents the major car companies in the United States, including General Motors, has issued a warning that if the shipment of these automotive chips doesn't resume quickly, it's going to disrupt the auto production in the United States as well. Reuters is reporting that US auto plants could be affected as soon as next month. Chinese state media have described the actions of the Dutch government as piracy, and they're referencing it to the days when it had the Dutch East India Company in the 17th century. Now, it's already a sensitive matter for the Chinese since the Netherlands colonized Taiwan, as well as what is now Indonesia, parts of Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and even established trading posts in Japan. And they expropriated whatever they wanted. The Global Times wrote, "This series of actions attempt to seize the capital and technological achievements that Chinese companies have built up over many years. And many have described such actions as 21st century piracy." And here's the kicker. Within days of the Chinese stopping the export of these chips back to the Europeans, the Dutch minister was crawling back to Beijing asking for talks. The boomerang was that fast. That's how quickly the blowback came. Good luck to him. Now, coming to the fiasco in the United States. The last 6 trading days have been borderline absurd, with social media posts and comments moving the S&P 500 over 100 handles, and it's been up, down, over 8 times. As the Trump administration just couldn't decide what line they wanted to take on China. They were going hot and cold, depending on where they were speaking and who they were speaking to, whether it was the MAGA base or the markets. Last Friday, Trump posted that he was imposing 100% tariffs on China, which started this markets roller coaster ride. And then he backed down last Sunday before midweek issuing another post where he accused China of economic hostility because it wasn't buying US soybeans, and that in return, he wouldn't export cooking oil. Now that became the butt of all memes for the next 2 days. Just for information, the US exports just over $1 billion of cooking oil to China versus them buying $12 billion of soybeans last year. The market started roiling along with the news of some bad bank loans, which in other times, maybe a week earlier, would have been ignored in the bigger picture. But they didn't, thanks to Trump's post and his administration's mismanagement of the messaging they wanted to give out on China, on trade talks and the relationship between the two countries. Now, you may remember that what I told you earlier, that Trump views the stock market as a sign of his manliness, his strength. It's a vindication that he's great. So Friday, just a day or so ago, he went on Fox News and he admitted what everyone else knew all along, that 100% tariffs are not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. It's probably not, it could stand.
The president said the United States is going to do fine with China. And he admitted that the extra 100% charge on goods from China that he threatened to introduce at the start of November the 1st, wasn't sustainable. But he also added that Beijing had forced him into that position and that the levies could stand potentially. Now, China has ripped us off from day one, Trump said during his interview. And he made an interesting remark. We have a very strong adversary, and they only respect strength.
And we have a very strong adversary, and they only respect strength.
So, of course, this is what is called TACO again from Trump's side. But this time it didn't work perfectly. You can't keep calling Peter cried wolf again and again and then think people are going to take you seriously. Donald Trump's view on China respecting strength is a classic example of his worldview and his communication style. In his framework, negotiation works only when the United States projects toughness, economically in this case. So for him, China interprets compromise as a weakness, despite whatever the Chinese government has said again and again. He has often accused past US administrations, especially Democrat administrations like Obama and Biden's, but even Republican ones, of being too conciliatory, and that they've made deals that have emboldened Beijing. He's even blamed Nixon for bringing China into the international system in the first place. But during this interview, he then went on to compliment President Xi, saying that he's an amazing man and that his story is a great one and needs to be admired. And it really is, actually. If you look it up, it's something worthwhile actually reading about. It's a fascinating story about how he had to leave town and how he came back and became the leader that he is today. And he said, Trump, that is, said that their meeting could still happen between the two leaders. And in fact, he basically said it's going to happen.
You know, amazing man. And you look at what he's done and what he's, you know, where his life is an amazing story. It's a story for a great movie.
So he didn't just tackle. He basically came to his senses after the blowback. At this point, China didn't even do anything. They only said, we won't just stand by and be abused. Wall Street and its markets was the blowback that forced him to backpedal on his words. Now, as all this is happening, another sideshow is taking place. The same unpredictability that we're seeing with tariffs, Nexperia, and chaotic policy making is exactly why central banks are fleeing to gold. They don't want their reserves hostage to a tweet or a post by the most important man in the world still, Donald Trump. You may have seen in the news that gold is rallying off the charts. Prices have doubled over the past 2 years. So yes, this was happening even before Donald Trump. But this last couple of months, we've really seen them accelerate. Now gold tops over $4,000 an ounce. Well, guess what? It's all coming from a detachment from that dollar-centric financial system. I'm not going to go into too much details. I have many, many videos on this. Do check out the playlist on de-dollarization. But what we're seeing since the end of June, gold has become a much bigger part of the combined foreign currency and gold reserves that are held by countries and central banks. The Deutsche Bank have done a research by the analyst Michael Zhu, who put out a note that gold now makes up about 30% of global foreign exchange reserves. Look at the chart and you can see the yellow line rising. This is up from 24% at the end of June. Now, in the same period, and look at the blue line on the chart, it shows how the dollar share has slipped from 43% to 40%. This is in a month. That's crazy. Now remember, back in the year 2000, the dollar accounted for over 70% of global reserves, and today we're saying it's around 40%. Gold's rise to 30% takes us back to the 1970s, when trust in the United States leadership was shattered due to its engagement in the Vietnam War and stagflation. And now the pattern's repeating. The uncertainty that we're seeing in Washington is pushing the world back into hard assets. Now, as the price of gold increases, it's natural to see gold becoming a larger part of the reserves. Gold prices have gone up around 61% in 2025 alone. However, remember, it's not just the prices. Quantity of gold held has also gone up. In just 7 years, gold's share of central bank reserves has nearly tripled, and it's reestablished it as one of the world's most important reserve assets. This points out how precarious is the dollar's position in the world. Unfortunately, US policymakers are going around the wrong way to make it more important. They're threatening and sanctioning. That's not going to stop people or nations from moving away from the dollar. Only a rules-based international global trading order will give the nations the security to feel comfortable holding the dollar as their reserve. So from tulips to tariffs to treasuries, leaders are basically acting first and thinking later, and global markets are making them pay. That's why the world now sees safety not in the dollar, but in gold. I'm Najma Minhas with GVS Deep Dive.
update on U.S.-China relations.
What's going on today?
Well, Trump has got some demands for China.
What does he want?
He really wants China to buy stuff. No,
But
seriously.
China needs something?
Well, okay, so what it is, soybeans.
Oh, yeah, but they can buy from other countries, not just USA.
Yeah, and in fact, USA already screwed themselves. This was the American plan. So the
Yeah.
American plan was we're going to bail out Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And then Argentina says, oh, okay, so we'll sell soybeans to China. Great, thank you. We got money from USA and we got a new buyer of our soybeans.
And China has a new seller.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the USA is actually in a bad situation because all the farmers are like, who do we sell soybeans to now if we don't have any buyers?
Trump, I just vote for you because you say you're going to help us.
Yeah, and then Trump's like, okay, well, I'm sending money to Argentina, so please don't call me again, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. But that's actually a real thing. And the other thing that's interesting is Trump saying, okay, China, you must sell us rare earths, and you must stop selling us fentanyl. So these are things, the 3 demands that Trump's trying to do. One of the questions is, okay, so first would be, can you force China to buy stuff?
Yeah.
Can you force China to sell you stuff?
I don't know. No, you can really force it,
But you really, really want it.
But no one needs it and no one's buying it, sell it.
Well, okay, so the USA does need these things, okay?
But they don't want to sell it.
Yeah, that's the dilemma. And so normally the way you would do this stuff, I think the thing is we say leverage basically. So like, what do you have over someone? What power do you have to like force someone to do something? So traditionally for the Americans, what's the Americans' main source of power in terms of economy?
Like consumer spending.
Yeah, so basically the idea would be we got this whole bunch of consumers, we got a bunch of people that are gonna buy stuff from you, you buy stuff from us, we buy stuff from you, these kind of things. But we're actually in a very weak position right now because if Americans feel broke, if they don't feel like they have any money,
then they stop spending.
Yeah, so this is where Trump, he's gotta like try to get people to spend to like strengthen everything up. He's also got to like make sure that we still have a market, meaning that people will sell stuff to us and then we have people to sell stuff too. But like, it's crazy. I wake up every day and check the news and he's doing like everything that you wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, and he's the one literally stopped the trading.
Yeah, so it's a trade war. That's why it's a trade war. And so from China's point of view, if Trump is going to be basically, your enemy and create all of these problems, what choice do you have?
Just find another consumer.
Yep, find another consumer. And where could these consumers be?
It could be Asia, Europe, there's a lot of other words.
And then where else could it be closer to home?
Where?
Your own home.
Oh, yeah. They have a lot of people.
Yeah, so this is a thing that the Americans really need to understand is that as China continues to develop, Chinese people, this number of people, I'll just say it, they're going to be bigger than the number of Americans.
Yeah, and they have a buying power.
Right. So do you guys see the inherent problem here? If the Americans' power is consumers, shopping, if that's our economy, but you have like this other country or other countries, you could argue Vietnam, you could argue India, you could argue China, have a massive population of people who are gaining in wealth. And here's another thing. This is the prior situation of USA and China. So let's take a company like Apple, okay? So Apple makes phones. We have Apples. I got one. What was the basic arrangement with China? So Apple designs the phones. Who makes the phones?
Yeah, Chinese in China.
Right. And then they basically kind of,
Yeah, they send to every the whole other country in the world.
Sure.
But money goes in the USA pocket.
Right. So just think of it this way. What if, just from the Chinese perspective, what if you cut Apple out of that, deal? So then what happens?
Then China's gonna buy Chinese phone.
Yeah. And Europe's gonna buy a Chinese phone.
Yeah.
And America could theoretically buy a Chinese phone, right?
They're gonna block it. You don't buy Apple, so you're not gonna buy Chinese phone.
Right. And so then you get essentially a trade war. And so what happens is though, for a consumer, just from a consumer point of view, consumers generally want more choices. And I've actually mentioned this before on the channel, and because we went to Too Short, we went to the department store and I would see Chinese products there. And some of these are actually pretty good these days.
Yeah, you know this.
Yeah. We won't say the name, but you can probably figure it out. Some of the stuff actually isn't that easy to get anymore in the USA because of the tariff situation. It's just the costs have gone up. And actually, true story, I actually looked on Reddit.
Yeah.
And people were writing today, they're like, I'm just so sick of winning. It's a joke because Trump always says we're winning. But like, there's a lot of products that people see on YouTube these days that's available in Australia or UK. What's that?
But they cannot get it?
Yeah, it's not that easy to get because of tariffs. And there's any number of products.
Fast, isn't it?
What's fast?
You know, the after trade war, you know, it was normal to buy, you know, Chinese stuff.
Oh, all sorts of stuff.
But you guys cannot cannot get it easily.
Yeah, so actually it was pretty interesting. It was in the Wall Street Journal today. We have a shortage of car parts.
Oh.
No, we need to fix cars. Americans like to drive cars, and we like to build cars and whatever. And so it was first Ford, and I think the latest one was Jeep. You know these brands. They basically stopped production because they don't have the parts. And it's like, it's so stupid. I mean, you know, Trump is basically, he promises everyone a bunch of jobs, right?
Yeah, and you can make it everything in USA. Okay.
Yeah.
But they just decide to stop making.
Because you can't get the parts, and then not only, it's not just the parts. Like even if you want the materials to theoretically do it yourself, you can't get that either. Like the whole thing is just an absolute mess. The point though we're trying to make here is China's actually meeting today, and what was today? Actually, it's today. I think they call it the 5-year plan. It might be all week is a better way to describe it. They're actually come up with ways to be more self-sufficient. That's actually their sort of strategy. One is, we talked about consumer spending is one, so they want to get their people to go shopping more essentially. So, you know, if they make their own products, then why not buy our own products and not depend on the US market? And it was actually pretty interesting here in Korea. We heard some numbers on car sales. What's going on with that?
Actually, our total car sales went up, even if you know the USA sales is down.
Yeah, which is actually fascinating because remember Trump, his whole bargaining chip is, hey, we got American consumers, and you definitely, you know, have to sell things to us, or we won't trade with you. But that is actually a big number for Korea.
They act like, you know, you don't have USA customer, you're screwed.
Right. That's how they act. But it's literally not true. Like we just had the numbers as you just said. And it's interesting because, like, for example, in Europe, I know that the Hyundai and the Kias, like, I know they're there.
Not just Europe, like Asia is our other, you know, consumer.
Right. And you know, markets are really competitive. And so in this day and age, people are figuring out that you don't have to only, doesn't mean you shouldn't sell Americans. If Americans want to open the market,
is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. But this idea, though, that's the only game in town, you know, certainly matters. What was really interesting about the whole Trumpy stuff is the argument that they're trying to make is if we go into a trade war, China's going to hurt more, right? And so then therefore USA has more power. Is that a good argument?
But it doesn't seem like it now. There's answer, right?
Yeah, so this is actually kind of a funny thing. So in USA it's all over the news. So in China they can control the news much more. So even though it is a real thing, if you stop trading USA, it does hurt the economy. That is real. But if you can control the news, people don't talk about it quite so much.
Yeah, but you know,
what's that?
There is a case that, you know, both are, you know, sinking.
Oh, absolutely. You could totally make that case. The other issue as well, and this is kind of funny. So in China, they'll release GDP numbers or consumer confidence numbers, and you know, it doesn't look great. They're just for fancy guys, but you never know what to think of the Chinese numbers because you just
you can really 100% trust it.
Right. And the reason why I say it's kind of funny is because with the government shutdown in USA, we get basically no numbers. And so like the Trump is like taking it in that direction to more the Chinese market sort of thing, to where, you know, the government can control the numbers. They can just basically flat out lie to you. But the difference between the US and the Chinese market, in China, they have a lot more sort of the way the government works. They can do changes very quickly.
Because because it's China, so the government point a direction, everyone going that.
Right. So they're able to. It's really really different. So in USA, you can try it. So which is kind of what Trump is doing. So Trump really admires what they do in China. Is like, hey, I'm going to
because they can force something. Actually, force something.
Yeah, but even in that regard, it goes back to, can you force someone to buy something?
Buying is different.
Right. Like just for example, give me an example. So let's say I'm a government official. It doesn't matter what the country. We'll pick USA. Okay. And Trump says, okay, everyone, I made a deal with Elon. So therefore, everyone needs to buy what?
Car.
Yeah. Well, which brand?
The Tesla.
Yeah. So could you get every American to buy a Tesla to support Trump and Elon?
Yeah.
Right. Y'all know no. Right. Obviously not. And it's the same with China. Even though they have more power, say, than the USA, and they can sort of try to get people to do something. It's like at the end of the day, you really can't force someone to buy something. Like you can't go to their house and say you got to buy BYD. That doesn't work that way. So that's actually the issue that China's having right now is how can we get Chinese consumers to essentially shop more, to be more like the USA. That's sort of their goal. It's actually quite interesting. Trump wants to go more like China. China actually kind of wants to go more
USA.
Yeah, to be more consumers. And some of the things that they're talking about, just to give you an idea, to be more self-sufficient, you strengthen your universities. So then that helps your companies to have like more engineers, more designers, more of the stuff. And then your companies have more products that are more attractive to your consumers to buy. But the consumer still needs confidence.
And money.
Yes, yeah, it goes hand in hand, right? And so then any government, it's not just China and USA, any government, France, we want to talk about that because their government's kind of fallen apart lately. And even here in Korea, you have to make sure that the economy keeps going, right? Because it doesn't do anyone any good, to be frank, if you go out in your neighborhood and all the stores are closed because there's no one shopping, right? So how do you keep people shopping? And that's essentially what China's meeting on. There's any number of things that they can do. Some things you can do, you can make things more affordable. So for example, in a family, what stuff that costs money to be like big cost?
Big cost. I think daily cost, big one is the food.
Sure, food, right? So government could be like, okay, we could subsidize farmers, for example, to get food costs down, right? Food's a cost, right? You could talk about education is a cost. What else costs people money?
Insurance.
Right, insurance, healthcare.
Healthcare, debt.
Yeah, that's one. So, how could we figure out ways to reduce interest rates? How can we make credit more easy? How can we reduce healthcare costs, education, et cetera? The point is with any number of things that, and it's talking about China or USA, the more that you support your consumer so that they have more money in their pocket, the idea is that they'll spend more money, but can you still force people to spend money?
Yeah,
right?
Even if they have more money, if they don't feel confident,
right,
they're gonna just save.
Right. So at the moment, the big problem in China, people don't feel confident about things. You can see it in the numbers. It's actually very similar to USA.
And
Korea. Yeah. Well, and you could argue the world. Like this, we'll have this old Maloo. And you guys probably know at home, and that's the question I would pose to you is this, for example, this year is you and your family talking about, hey, we're totally going to buy a new car,
family trip.
Yeah, we're totally going to take a vacation. We're totally going to get new phones. We're all shopping for new clothes. Consumers these days actually, well, it's a split in USA. So what's the split?
Rich people getting more rich.
Yeah.
Poor people getting more poor.
Yeah, that's actually true. And
there's no middle classes kind of disappear, right?
Right. And then this actually goes back to, remember, Trump's power, or we'll say chip, we say negotiating chip, is the American consumer. So what if the American consumer is only the wealthy consumer? What does that do to the Chinese market? Actually, China doesn't have a lot of luxury brands. They have some, but they don't dominate that space, actually.
But
they don't.
They start buying.
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah, like Volvo.
Yep, that's a good example.
Yeah.
So the reason why I bring that up is because it shows up in the markets, like which companies, when they report earnings, hey, we're selling stuff, hey, we're not selling stuff, etc. And so this is the stuff that
I usually don't do a TikTok in a grocery store, but it's after church and everybody's shopping. So I said, well, I'll make some, ground meat and pasta later today. Do you see that?
All right, if you can't see it, it's $27.76.
$27.76 for 3 pounds of ground meat.
It's crazy.
Oh my God. Looks like we're going to have to start eating a lot more carbs. Or maybe going vegan. I mean, thank God it's just me and my husband, but wow. These are like $30 a pack. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. And how did we get here? Seriously, like seeing prices of just ground beef and meat, not even ground beef. It's just beef as a whole. And it's not even just beef. It's actually chicken and all other kind of proteins that you want to eat from the grocery store. They skyrocket. They went through the absolute roof. I don't understand. It blew up overnight for some reason. I don't know if we want to say it's tariffs, or I think tariffs is the ultimate root cause, because tariffs ultimately affect farmers. Tariffs ultimately affect pricing that we pay from other countries, because we do import a small portion of our beef from other countries, like I think Brazil or maybe Australia. So I don't know, whatever countries around the world. Y'all fact check me in the comment section below. But we do it. It's a small number. I think not small, but it's a smaller number compared to what we do produce here. But it's just crazy, y'all. These grocery prices, and Americans are furious. So many people are speaking out. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section below. I got more videos in here you're absolutely going to love. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well for more great content like this. Let's get to the rest of the video.
3 small bags of groceries, $65. No meats, by the way. No meats.
Jeez.
3 small bags.
All right, so I just went and I picked up dinner. I just got some burgers, right? And I got some burgers, a bag of chips, and a pack of 8-pack of buns. And I about shit my pants. I'm about fucking for the price, right? I'm not one to normally complain about food prices, stuff like that, because I know inflation is a real thing. Inflation happens, shit happens. But look at this. Take a guess. And now, first, let me preface this that I understand.
Let me put this in the frame so you guys can see the pack of meat that he has. And shout out to, his name is Jack Fero on TikTok. Y'all can check him out. But look at this bag of meat. I mean, it's an 80% lean, 20% fat. Yeah, it looks like 4 patties in there. But hey, let's see how much this costs right here, y'all.
And that I'm paying for the packaging. I understand that I am paying for the fact that it was already pre-pattied meat. It was not a tube of meat. And I understand the fact that I did go to my local grocery store, which is not Walmart. But just take a guess. $20.99 before.
I'm sorry. I was about to say like maybe $12. Like I mean, it looks organic, I guess. Maybe guys, I seriously thought he was going to say like $12. Maybe even $10, because ground beef, it looks like the same size. Oh my, 20. Oh my God.
X for 2.5 pounds of meat. 8 patties.
Jeez.
I about keeled over. It has never been that much money before.
Is it cheaper to eat out, right? Is it cheaper to just grab a burger from McDonald's now? I don't, you know what I mean? Like by the time you make, I mean, of course, it's not the same level of healthiness, but I'm just saying for families who really aren't even factoring in health, who are just trying to feed their families, yeah, it might be cheaper to eat at McDonald's versus go to the grocery store now. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comment section below.
Like I said, I got a bag of chips. I got a pack of buns. And this, and it came out to over $30, and I will never be buying that again. And like I said, I understand that it was already pre-patted meat; it was not a tube of meat. But the fact of the matter that normally, even at that grocery store, a pound of meat is like $3 and some odd change. This never used to be $21 for that much. It used to be like 10.
I'm at the grocery store and these prices are ridiculous. And this is what I see. Like, this is 6:33. We are living in a time that you really cannot afford to eat. Oh my God. I actually found something. Okay, so I found something pretty good. It's organic beef for $8.99.
$8.99 for some organic beef. Hey, I don't know. I mean, it looks like a little small little pack, but hey, it's something. It's the cheapest one she can find. Hey, I don't know, but I got more videos here. I didn't know we're talking about meat a lot at the beginning of this video. We're going to talk about some other, grocery prices as well. But before we finish the rest of this video, I got to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, Morgan & Morgan.
The economy feels like it's running people over lately. And speaking of getting hit, let's talk about Morgan & Morgan. Now, picture this. You're crossing the street, minding your own business, maybe even listen to your own playlist. Some guy in the car decides that brakes are just a suggestion. Not only are you on the ground, but your dignity is too. That's when the right legal team matters most. There's a reason cars are built with brakes, just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Over 1,000 lawyers, 4,000 staffs, and their motto is simple, for the people. That means if you're injured because of someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid, not giant corporations or insurance companies. Because let's be honest, if I get hit by a car, the last thing I'm gonna do is call my mom. Like, yeah, mom, I just got hit by a car. Do you know a lawyer? Nope. I'm opening my phone, filing a claim with Morgan & Morgan, and then calling mom. Priorities. And it really is that simple. You can file a claim within just minutes from your phone, quicker than it takes to argue with the driver who swears I didn't see you. Best part, you pay nothing up front. Morgan & Morgan only gets paid if they win your case. No surprise bills, no lawyer fees, draining your bank account while you're in a neck brace. So if you've been injured, your case could be worth millions. Whether it's a car accident, a slip and fall, or anything else, you can go to forthepeople.com/JReed or click the link in the description to start your claim today. It only takes minutes, and remember, they don't get paid unless you do.
Let's play a game, shall we? I had a friend in town last weekend, and her brother texted her while we were hanging out and said, guess how much I just spent for groceries at Walmart in North Carolina. Y'all will never guess. Here's a picture of the cart. We've got spinach, bagels, looks like a whole carrot cake, which is great. I love that choice. We've got Halo Top, Ben & Jerry's. That can be pretty expensive. Salsa, sweet potatoes, some prepackaged salad mixes, frozen veggies, case of Miller Lite. We've got organic grass-fed beef. There's tortillas. It looks like it's keto, so that could be higher price.
I'm going to take a wild guess because, y'all see the cart, right? Like, I'm going to take just a wild guess. Let's just say $200 because and that's being generous, mainly because they got the Miller Lite, you got some meats here, maybe $250, right, because of the meats, and then everything else just looks like just regular stuff. You got the carrot cake that may be $15 by itself, but we're gonna say $200. We're gonna say $200. That's my guess. Y'all let me know in the comment section below. What was your guess on this whole cart right here?
We can't really see. What do y'all guess the price is for this cart? $496. In North Carolina at Walmart.
You got to stop this. You have. And shout out to the creator. Her name is Ashley Nog or something like that. Guys, oh my. Yo, like I'm not making this up. You cannot make this up. Y'all look at this cart once again. Look at this cart. I'm not, and this is at Walmart. This isn't at Publix or some super expensive. Well, I guess it's Walmart, right? It looks like a Walmart cart. You see the blue on there. Like, I guess it's Walmart. This isn't some special thing. This is at Walmart. $400, $500 for this. And it's not even filled up to the top of the cart. Yo, hey, I seriously, like, I'm not making this up at all. I'm not. Like, this isn't an AI video. This isn't fake. This is a real video. I gave shout out. I gave it once again. Shout out to the creator once again. Seriously, y'all. I can't. I can't.
Okay, y'all. I just ran to the store to get, I got 5 items, just enough to complete the meals that I'm going to make at home. And one of the meals that I'm going to make at home this week to take to work, and so that Kian has stuff at home to make for lunches, I'm making tuna fish salad. And I bought these, just run-of-the-mill store brand crackers. I had a couple of dollars left on my SNAP card, which I don't get very much SNAP to begin with. They're phasing me off the program, which is fine. Let me tell you, when I'm telling you that changes to SNAP have already started, they've already started. This, I've bought this before on SNAP multiple times, but let me tell you, today it was ineligible. It was ineligible for SNAP. So these inexpensive items that people rely on just to keep food in the house, or lunches for your kids, or lunches for you to take to work, they're going to stop you from doing it.
I'm probably going to out myself a little bit by saying this, but I really don't give a shit. They tell you to live within your means so that you can have 401ks and savings and be able to enjoy your money later on in life. Bitch, I can't live anymore within my means. I drive a 2003 box truck for work. It has 1 million miles on it. We're a one-car household. I have my work truck. My wife has her car. I have crusty-ass New Balances on right now that were hand-me-downs from somebody else who didn't want to wear them anymore. I've had the same, 5 hats for a decade now. I'm not buying new hats. You think I don't want to go get that thing on my eye taken care of? I'm not spending $500 at a dermatologist to go get that taken care of. And I can't have health insurance because they want $1,000 a month for it. We have to get a deal on our rent through family because rent in our area is well over $3,000 a month now. But 10 years ago, it was like $1,000 a month.
Yeah, and people say, "Oh, stop buying coffee and cancel your subscriptions and all these different things." Yeah, it's no longer about that. People aren't even buying those different things. People aren't even people are cutting wherever they can. They are selling their cars. Well, not everybody's selling their cars, right? But still, when we talk about rising rent costs, grocery prices, and rising insurance, everything is going up. Nothing is going down. The average American is dealing with this as we speak. And you know what? Do y'all remember this lady right here, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was so pro Trump? She was the Trumpster of the year during the whole campaign. Everywhere you saw her, she had a MAGA hat on. It was I'm just let the video speak for itself, and then we can talk about it later.
But as far as issues that concern all of us, whether we're Democrats or Republicans, people right now are looking at everything through their wallet and their bank account, and they're going, the price of food has not gone down. They're saying rent has not gone down. Houses are still unaffordable. And now health insurance premiums are going to hike, whether you're on the ACA or having private insurance as well. They're literally going to go up for everyone. And I don't really care about the drama up here. I could care less. I really think we got to fix this issue.
Yeah, we've been needing to fix this issue. This issue needed to be fixed a long time ago. Even when Trump was campaigning, this was an issue already. Why is it now that when Trump, it's not happening now? And it seems very convenient because the midterm elections are coming up and all these different things. I don't know if she switched parties or whatever. She's speaking out, but I don't know if she's trying to get a seat within the House. I have no idea what is her goal, but y'all know talk about policies. Let's talk about policies and not, identity. Talk about policies. What is it? What are the policies that are going to fix these things within the country? Tariffs is not going to fix it because, when we talk about tariffs and all these different things, when is that ever going to man, I can talk about this all day. I can talk about this all day.
I have a question for parents out there. How do you afford daycare? Because I'm looking at daycares. I'm about to have a kid in 10 weeks. I'm looking at daycare prices just for the mid-range ones. It's $1,000 a week. If one of us is making $4K a month, we may as well quit our job because the entire income from that job is just to pay for daycare. So you may as well stay home, try and get by on one income and actually spend time with your kid, at least one of you. How are you guys doing it? Or how are you doing it? Are you relying on family and friends, or is there like some kind of app where you can find childcare or something? Or is it really going to be $1,000 a month if we both want to work?
Yeah, one of y'all might as well not even work, especially if you're making $4K a month. I don't know. We don't know the situation, but I'm just saying hypothetically.
Let's compare grocery prices from Biden's last day in office with Trump right now in October of 2025. Okay, on January 19, 2025, on Biden's last day in office, this French vanilla coffee was $7.99 a bag. Now let's
and Trump and his business cronies, the small hats and others, are purposely putting white farmers out of business with the large farmland and then selling them and stealing the property from them.
flash forward to October 2025. Same coffee, same store, same size, $9.99 a bag. That's a 25% Trump increase. Let's try one more item, bacon. It was $8.15, $7.49 on sale back on Biden's last day, January 19, 2025. How about now? Now it's $9.65 or $8.99 on sale. Either price, it's a 19% increase than what it was back when Biden was president. So 9 months into the Trump presidency, his promise of lowering prices is failing.
Yeah, but let's build him a statue, in Washington, D.C. Let's build all these. Let's give him a Nobel Peace Prize and all. Let's do these things, because this is what matters. No, it's not what matters. That's complete sarcasm. But oh man.
So I have a legitimate question. So where are those cheaper groceries? Where's all that economic relief that everyone was promised? Healthcare is about to go through the roof. The government, that, by the way, we pay for, is still shut down. Tens of thousands of jobs are gone. What are we going to do about that?
Y'all, we have to be going into a recession. I swear, we're at a totally different Walmart. And look at this. Milk is 96 cents a gallon. And then the half a gallons are 58 cents. What is going on with South Carolina milk? What are they doing to these cows? It was funny the first time, but now I'm concerned. I saw on one of my YouTubers I watched, he was buying milk off Amazon, and it was $1.97 on Amazon, which is already crazy cheap. And then we had it 82 cents at our other Walmart, and now this Walmart is 96 cents. That's sus. That's sus. And the reason I came over here is because I saw a lady, she had 10 things of milk in her bucket. I said, there ain't no way the milk is cheap at this Walmart too, because this is the other side of town. So, y'all, I don't know. I think there's a recession coming. I don't know how this is a recession indicator. I just feel it. We're going into a recession.
Well, it might be cheaper at the end of the week.
Right. What if it goes down to a penny?
This is a different Walmart too.
Right.
So it's not just the one we've been going to.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know. Do y'all trust that milk, or is it an error or something, or is this something that maybe? Hey, that is some cheap milk though. I will tell you that. I gotta go check my Walmart and see if that milk is that price. Like $8.96 is very, very cheap.
This is why I can't shop at Publix anymore. $39.28 for Chuck Tacos. This is why I can't shop at Publix anymore. $4.79 for bread. This is why I can't shop at Publix anymore. Look how thin these New York strip steaks are, and they're $21. Are you kidding me? These are paper thin.
Is anybody else sick of these grocery bills? Because I just spent $80 at Trader Joe's. I still have to buy food to eat for dinner for the week at the regular grocery store. That's going to cost me over $100. So this is out of control. Prices are ridiculous. I don't even know what I bought at Trader Joe's. Can you guys relate? Because why are prices so expensive?
Yeah, I can relate. And I think everybody in America can relate at this point in time. And, you know, so many people are just like, hey, what's this? What's the fix? What's the solution? When are we going to see, you know, some kind of fix for all these different things and not talk about these different things? Because people are living everyday lives, and some people are literally making more money now than they probably ever have in their entire life. And they're still living paycheck to paycheck. And don't get me wrong, some people are dealing with, you know, their own issues. Maybe it's a lifestyle creep or whatever the case is. Probably bought a bigger house, a bigger car, but some people literally live way below their means and are still struggling. You know, like, this is what's going on within America. These grocery prices, I don't even know. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more great content like this. I will see you next video.
Eating at a restaurant has become like ridiculously priced in the past few years.
In American restaurants, you're paying over $20 for microwaved frozen food.
I'm at my job at Denny's, and it's literally not a singular customer, and we are empty.
So with the high cost of living issues that everybody's been dealing with, I've been getting more and more videos popping up on my For You page talking about how empty restaurants have become. With the increase in cost over years, along with the decline in food quality, it has really taken a toll in an already cutthroat business. And now we've gotten to the point where I don't even know what really could be done, other than possible promotions to cut prices for a limited time to get people in the doors, but that's not permanent, and things only seem to be getting more expensive as time goes on. So I think that this is only going to get worse. We have a lot to go over today, along with comments from you guys from previous videos. So if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's start off with a very interesting clip.
I think we can all agree that eating at a restaurant has become like ridiculously priced in the past few years. We cook at home most of the times, but like, you know, we like to go out like once or twice a week. And I honestly feel like me and my husband, cannot go out to lunch or dinner without spending $50+ and we don't even drink. A couple months ago now, like me and my husband kind of just looked at each other after going to like, you know, a moderately priced restaurant and being like, that like was not worth it. And we kind of just decided then and there that we were either going to go like the fast casual chain restaurant route or go to a really nice restaurant where we knew that we were going to get a great meal and it'd be worth what we were paying for. This has kind of helped with that balance of like, you know, sometimes we don't want to cook. Sometimes we want like a great experience, but like we weren't getting that like value out of going to the mediocre restaurant and it being like worth our money.
Okay, so on one hand, I understand and do agree with what she's saying. However, if she's talking about the current outrageous prices at a restaurant and still going 1 to 2 times a week, what am I really supposed to say about that? In the restaurant's eyes, you're still a paying customer and you're not really changing anything with your wallet going out that often. So I don't know, this one really confused me, and that's what the comment section talked about as well. Once or twice a week, that's insane. I thought you meant once or twice a month. You're going a lot. Another comment talking about when she was going to go to fast casual restaurants. I spent $15 at Panera for half a sandwich and half a mac and cheese. It was ridiculous. So it's not like that option is much cheaper in today's world either. And then of course the other side of the coin, her saying that they were going to go all out to very high-end restaurants for high quality food, but clearly that's going to be way more expensive than any other option. We have a comment from one of you guys. Not only the prices have doubled, but it's also half the quality. And that's why these types of environment and nightlife in certain parts of the country are just really dying out.
In American restaurants, you're paying over $20 for microwaved frozen food, and people are wondering why no one wants to eat out anymore. This isn't just some crazy theory. This is actually true. Restaurants openly admit to this. The system is absolutely collapsing on itself. People can't afford it. Customers aren't going out anymore. These places are sitting empty on Friday, Saturday nights. I could go to Central Avenue on a Friday night and film an empty restaurant for you guys if you don't believe me. It is happening over and over and over again every weekend at this point. As a live musician in this city, I can see it firsthand because the gigs are the first thing to go. If there's no one in the restaurant, they're not going to pay for live music. And this loss of restaurants in America is going to be studied. This is bad.
One of the comments from this clip, the TikTok I had before this, was literally just saying, restaurants nowadays are just competing over who could present Cisco food the best. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but even the restaurants openly know that customer volume is going down, but nothing's really changing.
But a lot of the restaurant owners and chefs in Miami this summer have been talking about just how slow everything has been. And of course, it's not everywhere, but the Miami Herald talked to a bunch of people who live in Miami and asked them why they're not eating out. And for the most part, people said prices are just too high and they are trying to cut back right now. They say the main reason cited by diners who responded is the fact that prices are too high and that too many new restaurants aren't paying attention to the needs of local diners. Man, that one hits home too, because so many of these restaurants are all the same. You know, they all kind of have the same dishes. They're all very expensive. The service is mediocre or crap at best. And then they want to charge you $30 to $40 a plate. One couple in Miami reported going to a restaurant in Wynwood called Double Knot, which is an Asian restaurant from Philadelphia. And just a dinner for two was $300, guys. Like if I got a bill for dinner for two for Lizzie and I would have to do like a double take and like, is this for real? I mean, is this the right number? I don't think I've ever paid that much for us to go have a dinner anywhere.
And as I said, prices only seem to be going up, even though they know the traffic is slowing down. We'll see in a little bit a couple of sponsored posts on TikTok that I've seen from a few chain restaurants having some limited time offers and meal deals to just get people in the door. But as soon as that kind of stuff goes away, so will the customers. We've already seen that with McDonald's and a lot of fast food chains recently. People have been pushed away from the prices also. So they have some promotions on mobile orders, on their apps, takeout. People use them and buy the food, but as soon as the offer expires, there goes everybody at the restaurant as well. But another thing that was said in the last clip, a lot of the newer restaurants all end up being very similar. The same dishes, the same looks, the overall prices. So much so that people are just done with the modernization of the logos, the restaurants, everything that goes along with it. And we have a little update of the Cracker Barrel situation that happened recently.
Restaurant chain Cracker Barrel is cutting ties with the San Francisco design firm behind its controversial rebrand. The restaurant chain hired Profit just 7 months ago. In August, it unveiled its new logo, streamlining the design by ditching the iconic man in the overalls and the barrel. The new logo drew massive backlash online. Cracker Barrel has since reverted to its original branding and suspended redesigns.
So over the past few years, you increase the price, the food quality goes down, and everything gets a boring, modern redesign. So it becomes difficult to differentiate any restaurant, period. And you're surprised that this entire industry is declining? I just really don't understand how they don't get it. But we have a comment from one of you guys talking a little bit more about the food quality. I don't understand how restaurants can nearly double the cost of their food while everything is frozen. Nothing is homemade. You could buy a bag of French fries from Walmart for $3. It baffles me that the food is disgusting, yet they charge steakhouse prices. And a lot more people are starting to realize that and talk about it online because so many of these places just reheat food that you could get from the grocery store. Nothing is fresh.
Can anyone else like not eat at chain sit-down restaurants anymore? Like Olive Garden or Chili's? Like I used to love them. I worked at Chili's, love the food. But lately, it's like really freaking me out. Like every time I eat it, it doesn't feel like real food. Like it feels like it was made in a lab, which it probably was in some like really nice test kitchen and everything. But like I know it's like prepackaged and comes in frozen, blah blah blah. But I could get past that before, and now it's just different. It feels like I don't know, like dystopian slop. like presented as a nice meal.
I refuse to pay over $20 for an entree and it's a TV dinner. I'm having this happen with all food. Restaurant food is gross, fast food is even worse. Frozen food is like plastic. Even the fresh stuff is constantly recalled and off now. We've seen that when we've talked about grocery prices in the stores. Nothing really seems to be too safe to eat anymore. So much of the food at chain restaurants literally come out of a freezer bag, and we have a perfect example of that right here.
So I'm walking home, right? And I see all of these bags of chicken meatballs. I'm like, why on earth would a restaurant, where would these be coming from? You know what? Cater to You Kitchen. You pay for catering and you get chicken meatballs from a box.
You'd be surprised where your local restaurants get their supplies. Look up Restaurant Depot. I love non-restaurant people learning about Cisco for the first time. I don't know why everyone's being mean about this. Do I expect a restaurant to hand roll meatballs? Yeah, I do, to be honest. Especially for what you have to pay for it now, everything should be top tier, and that's just not the case at all.
This is the Costco of restaurants. And just like Costco, you have to be a member to shop here. And to be a member, you have to work for a restaurant. This is where restaurants can get items in bulk, from disposable cutlery to tubs of mayo and soy sauce, and even Willy Wonka-sized chocolate bars. But here's a dirty little secret. A lot of restaurants will get frozen pre-made dishes here. Heat them up to the restaurant, serve it to the customer, charge $10. Most popular offenders are the labor-intensive dishes like empanadas, dumplings, spring rolls, raviolis, pastries, and especially desserts. It is rare for a restaurant to have a dedicated pastry chef. So many times the chocolate pudding or the tiramisu or the tres leches cake you're ordering is just thawed out Restaurant Depot food. So what do you think? Is this cheating or is this smart business?
I mean, in a way, you could talk about it being smart business, but if the customers stop coming because of this, it's not so smart anymore. And the comment talking about charging $10 for it is kind of on the low end now. You'll see a lot of meals being $15, $20 for very basic dishes, but we could go over to the comment section. I don't even think it's a dirty little secret anymore. You could literally tell that Olive Garden or Red Lobster and more literally taste like warmed up frozen food. Stick with small local family-owned restaurants if you could find them anymore. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video because that also comes with a very hefty price tag as well. But when it comes to the restaurant's drop in revenue, that does not just mean food alone. We have a clip up on screen. Restaurant operators see a drop in alcohol sales, according to Texas Restaurant Association. A survey of restaurant owners showed a drop in alcohol sales during the second quarter of 2025. Restaurant owners said that the economy and drinking trends among those under 29 years old led to the decline of alcohol sales. Gen Z and younger millennials are not drinking as much as other generations. The changing demographics and habits are leading the industry to adapt. Well, I don't really know how they would adapt if people just aren't doing it at all. I don't know. I feel like it's just my own experience, but I see a lot of people around my age, myself included, that don't drink nearly as much or really at all, honestly, anymore. Along with another one of the big reasonings in the comments right here. Easier to buy your own bottle than pay $22 for a mixed drink. You're getting to the point in some of these restaurants where one drink will be the same cost of a meal that is already overpriced in the first place. These things come out in very thin or small glasses, so you're getting a few ounces of liquid, and more people are waking up and realizing that it's just not worth it anymore. Barely any alcohol in a $20 drink. You don't understand, we're broke, we don't have any money. $20 for watered down drinks. No thanks. Who can afford to go out and drink at a bar in this economy? None of this kind of stuff is surprising to me at all. We have another comment here. Went to Buffalo Wild Wings after 3 years. 15 wings and fries for me. Burger and fries for the other person. $48 before tip and taxes. Wings were burnt and soggy, and there were only 10 people in the whole restaurant. I'll never go back. And piggybacking off of that, we can see a lot of these chain restaurants are hurting now.
Applebee's and IHOP are losing money. They are amongst the latest restaurant chains to announce that customers are walking away from higher priced items and not spending as much time in their restaurants. Remember that Applebee's and IHOP were part of the group of restaurants that raised their prices over the last few years, and they are seeing customers pull back as a result. In fact, Applebee's says that the amount of customers that are only coming in to take advantage of promotions has significantly increased over the past year. Of course, it's little wonder that customers are getting very savvy and are only focused on deals when the price of food has skyrocketed so much, especially eating out and amongst even fast food restaurants. Applebee's and IHOP say that they hope to turn things around for themselves by focusing on innovative new menu products. What? Can customers expect more of those watered down Dollaritas? Either way, given current economic conditions, I highly doubt there's going to be much that either restaurant can do to coax customers into spending much more on higher priced items. It just simply isn't the time for that right now.
And like I said, I'm seeing a ton of this right now because I looked up this topic on TikTok. A ton of the sponsored posts are what's up on screen right now. This one specifically is Buffalo Wild Wings Pick 6 for $19.99, which I mean overall does seem like a good deal, but this kind of stuff doesn't last forever. I've seen ads previously with Applebee's like he talked about in the last clip. Same thing with Chili's as well, but they end up going away and so do the customers. But I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at a clip from just a couple years ago, where this problem was still happening in 2023, but we could also see how much it's changed and evolved in the past 2 years.
Is price actually the problem why people are going out less? I think at the end of this video, I'm going to surprise you. So we see this article from December 22nd of 2023. It talks about how, as you can read the headline, is it price or is it something else why people are dining out less? So now this first part would show you. It says that to be clear, there hasn't been an exodus from restaurants exactly, but the anticipated rebound of the pandemic has been slowing. But you see things like this. Like, so at the end of this, late night Taco Bell runs were way up. The fast casual has gone up. We still left our homes in search of convenient food, fast food joints, all that type of stuff. So we're seeing, and this would lead you to believe that maybe price is the problem because these are oftentimes the cheaper option. But not so fast, my friend. As you would see here, when it comes to the more expensive locations, it seems as though they're either doing all or nothing. Customers are doing all or nothing. They're either going to Carbone or these really high-end viral places that are doing great, or they're not going out at all. It's no longer in between where they'll go out for the nice place, but nothing crazy. It's just different. And this is what we've seen in 2023.
So at least back then, it seemed like it was either super expensive or super cheap. Any of the middle ground, a lot of the chain restaurants just wasn't really worth it, which I think is the same case right now. But 2 years into the future, people have been heavily complaining about fast food, that not being worth it at all, comparable prices to those same chain restaurants. So sales overall is down in that part of the industry as well. And I guess it sounds like more people are going to very expensive high-end restaurants, which just at least in my opinion, I don't see it really being worth it at all. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that any sort of steak is worth $100 or more. If you have that kind of money to spend all the time, I mean, that's completely fine. That's your choice. But I've been to a very expensive high-end restaurant once in my life. And of course, yes, it was good food. I just don't think I could ever justify in my mind those types of price tags, even if I made an ungodly amount of money. But I guess that's just not the sentiment everybody has. But talking about fast food joints, we have a clip right here of the prices being comparable to a sit-down restaurant.
Here's the Subway. A foot-long sandwich, the Beast, $18.99. Woo! 12 for the half foot, that ain't right.
Who's going to be spending $20 on a Subway sandwich? Subway would be horrible even if the food was free. And if you order it delivery, it's basically a $30 sandwich. $40 for 2 sandwiches is ridiculous. I really don't know how a lot of these places are still in business.
I'm at my job at Denny's, and it's literally not a singular customer, and we are empty. It's 3 employees, and we live in California too. So in California, we get paid $19 an hour minimum. So there's 2 servers, $19 an hour. One of them, he's been here longer than me, so I'm assuming that his pay is somewhere in around like $23 an hour. And then we got a cook, probably makes about $25 to $30 an hour. So just in labor costs alone, they losing almost damn near like $80 an hour.
I went to Denny's about 2 months ago. A breakfast combo was $20. We walked out. Ridiculous. But I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the wages in these places. Like he said, they were making $19 an hour because they were in California. And overall, I don't think that this is the main reason why people are angry at restaurants and not going anymore. But I do think it could be a contributing factor and probably not the best thing to put up online right now, because I've seen some posts from servers talking about how much money they make. Oh, you're a server. Are you going to get a real job? And then you see how much money she made in the month of August. Almost $9,000, $52 an hour. We'll go right over to the comment section. Can we stop bragging about how much we make? It only makes people not want to tip us. Never tipping again. These comments are right. Not tipping over $5 at any restaurant at this point. People with important jobs should be making this kind of money. Never tipping again. Going back to my standard 15%. Now, I'm not trying to make the argument whether this is right or wrong, but especially with virtually everybody hurting begging for money right now, showing off making $9,000 a month being a server, probably not in your best interest to do right now. Another one right here, how much I make in a work week as a server. Going through day by day, 383, 633, 365, 250, and in total 1633 for 33 hours of work, an average of almost $50 an hour yet again. And just these same type of comments. I'm going to stop tipping. Cool, I could tip less now. As a server, I need servers to stop advertising because it makes people tip less. This is more than I make in 2 weeks as a career paramedic. So overall, I think that these types of videos are not helping anyone out right now, but we could head back over to these areas just being dead.
So we just went to James on a Friday night and there was like no one there. And the food, not what it used to be. So where's everyone going in Summerlin, Las Vegas? Where is everyone partying? Where is everyone drinking? Where is everyone eating? Because that used to be the spot and it's not anymore.
Everyone's broke, unemployed, and inflation's going up. Very straightforward comment, but especially when we're talking about Las Vegas, if you've seen anything in the news over the summer, tourism is down very heavily across the board. So if you live and work near these areas, you're probably getting hit even harder.
LA follows Las Vegas footsteps as visitors to city plummet 50%. No one's going. We're talking about people taking trips. They tend to do that when they think their lives are good. Nobody goes, hey, I'm unemployed. I just got thrown off Medicaid. Do you want to go to Vegas?
Not to mention that a drink on the strip is $50 now. I think overall this summer has been particularly bad. And if these restaurants are counting on the influx of people going to their restaurant because they're traveling, it's really not looking good right now. And we have another comment from one of you guys right here. One of my local pubs here in Ireland has their menu on their Facebook page from 2 years ago when their 12-ounce sirloin steak was 20 euros. Now it's been replaced by an 8-ounce for 30 euros. So 50% price increase and a 1/3 size reduction. I know in a lot of cases that the margins are not great when it comes to the restaurant business, but especially in the type of climate that we're in right now, I would completely stay away from this industry altogether.
There's certain businesses I always say stay away from. Number one, especially for me, I don't see myself ever getting involved in this type of business, is the food industry. You can speak to any restaurant owner. It is a graft. The margins are low. You have to stress about the quality being the same every single day. I wouldn't be able to step away from that. I would find myself there every evening, every weekend. I wouldn't have a life. Yes, there may be some people who have made the fortunes in the food industry. I'm just saying it's one of the hardest ones.
And one of the comments on this clip, it's not about the money, it's about passion. But as we've seen many times throughout the videos on my channel, most of the time, passion does not pay the bills. People have gone to college, put themselves into 6 figures worth of debt because they got a degree in their passion, and now they can't find a job and are making basically no money. I'm not saying that nobody should ever open a restaurant again, but when 60% of them fail within 3 years and 80% within 5, on top of all the issues we've gone over so far with customers and the overall sales volume going down, the odds are pretty stacked against you. Here's some clips here. Sad to see that one of the best Mexican restaurants in North Jersey is totally empty at 7:30 at night on a Saturday. To be honest, there are a ton of clips on TikTok like this. The economy is worse. Restaurants are the first one to feel it. They probably want people to pay $40 for 3 tacos. Also, every restaurant just uses Cisco food. It's all the same cafeteria, hospital, jail food when you try to serve us $30 a plate. Maybe people don't want to eat at restaurants and they're cooking at home. Groceries are expensive and people are cutting back. So this ties in with talking about more of these smaller businesses instead of going to the chain restaurants that don't seem to be worth it. The same issue with high prices still apply. One of the big trends recently is the millennial burger joints. I feel like everybody has probably seen a clip or seen this out in public where they're supposed to be different than the average Applebee's or Chili's, something along the lines of that. And funny enough, all of these types of places end up looking like their own chain restaurant. They're all very similar. The prices that they're charging are just absolutely insane. I ordered a burger and this was at my table. Guess how much it was? $29 for the burger, $13 for the truffle fries. The in-house red sauce, in other words, ketchup alone would be $6. Another one here, guess how much the burger costs, where it's just a plain burger, minimum $40 meal, and there'll be no option to not not leave a tip. And the creator comments, they asked me if I wanted truffle fries. So that would have been even more expensive. 600% gratuity included. Just two guys with a crazy idea. Another one right here just showing the glasses of measuring cups instead of normal glassware, and the pepper being in a light bulb instead of a normal shaker. Another just two brothers with a crazy idea. The light bulb is genuinely insane. The giant measuring cups of iced tea get me every time. It just really doesn't matter if it's the low-end fast food restaurants, the mid-tier chains or small family businesses, or of course the high-end fine dining restaurants. Everything is just priced too high for most people now.
So I am someone who used to really value going out to dinner, and I would actually budget a lot of money every single month for going out to restaurants. That was a big part of my social life and how I got together with a lot of my girlfriends. And now I would say that I've eaten out at restaurants maybe 5 times in the last 6 to 8 months, literally since the summer. A few months ago, I went out to dinner with one of my friends. This was early December. And we got pizza and wine and salad. And so we're sitting at this restaurant at this little teeny tiny table sandwiched between 2 other groups of people. So we have barely any space. The table is not even big enough to fit everything that we ordered. We got a glass of wine each. We got 2 individual sized pizzas. And mind you, neither of us eat meat. I ordered the vegan pizza, which didn't have any cheese. It was literally just a pizza with eggplant and sauce. And she ordered just a white pizza, no meat. So 2 of the least expensive pizzas on the menu. And we split a kale salad and we each paid $80. The waiter came over with the bill and I was like, what did we order? And the food was good, but $80 for pizza, wine, and salad is ridiculous.
So I could show you a lot more examples similar to that, but I think you guys understand the point I'm trying to get across. So that's all I got.
They warned state agencies yesterday that food stamps will likely be not appearing in November. Horrific. Think what you want about people on SNAP benefits, but little to many people's knowledge, a lot of the people who receive SNAP benefits are working individuals. And even if they're not, children depend on these to eat. And if you have any ounce of human empathy or sympathy, children are not the fucking problem, and they should not fucking suffer hunger because the government can't get their shit together and agree on anything. That would mean no Thanksgiving dinner for a lot of these families. Fuck Thanksgiving dinner. That means no lunches for these children, no breakfast for these children, no dinners regularly for these children. And if they can't come together and pass this budget in a nonpartisan way, this will continue and we will have starving children.
$186 billion. $186 billion was cut from food stamps and SNAP benefits from Americans, working class Americans. And it's not, and shout out to the creator, right? Her name is Samantha. It's not just, people freeloading. Yes, while it does happen, I say this, I have to make disclaimers every single video, but yes, it's not because people take advantage of the system. $186 billion. Do y'all know how much they just gave to Argentina? Trump, Trump. Do y'all know how much Trump just gave to Argentina? $40 billion he just gave to Argentina to bail them out. When we still got farmers and we still got, of course, we know farmers voted the way they are and whatever case is, right? But we still got people who are being affected by these policies. Kids, families, mothers and the father, people genuinely need the support, but we're making cuts and we're talking about laying people off and all these different things, making it worse and not fixing the problem. This is what I mean. And $186 billion cut when you could still have the programs, but you're giving it to other countries. That's why I struggle with it, but I'm gonna let the rest of the video speak for itself.
Even more so than we already do in America. And let's not forget, some states don't offer free school lunches. So these children depend on these food stamps to eat. And if you take children out of the picture, people without children depend on these to eat, to survive, a basic human need. And our government just can't get their shit together. The smallest things that we can do as a community to help right now, donate what you can to your local food banks, because people are going to be depending on these food banks more than ever. Bags of rice, non-perishables, things that can last and help people get through this tough time. As always, fuck Donald Trump and fuck his little regime Republicans that just can't put their foot down and tell him to fuck off. Because if you really think that the Democrats are the problem in this situation, you need to wake the fuck up and realize what the fuck is actually going on.
And the biggest thing is, and I don't like pointing fingers, and I don't like to sit right here and say, oh, it's the Democrats' fault or it's the Republicans' fault and it's MAGA. And I don't like to sit right here and point fingers, because that's the problem. That's why we are here right now. Versus finding a solution and uniting people and all these different things. We're sitting back and we're talking about whose fault it is. Do y'all know how like kindergarten that is? How you know, like seriously, what? How you know what I mean? Like, am I alien or something? Like, why does that seem so simple to me? But instead, this is just what people are. Guys, this is the president of the United States. And I don't hate Trump. I don't hate anybody in this world. That's not what but I am going to have an opinion about something, and I'm going to continue talking about it because this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I even see people, you know, and some people get back and talk about, oh, people can work and, you know, have their jobs. Yes, that is 100%. People need to understand how much it costs to have a baby. You know, people need to understand how much it costs to, you know, daycare and childcare and formula and all these different. You got to have a good understanding of how much this stuff costs. However, at the same time, some people are having kids. They're working a job. The kids are even in school, and they still need help because of the cost of living. We talk about the economy, how expensive it is all day. This is what we talk about pretty much every single video now. We talk about this all the time. But at the end of the day, people still have to feed their kids. So regardless of what is happening, do you just let them starve? And I'm going to say this last point. But yes, when we talk about the regime between pro-life and pro-choice and all these different things, they want people to have kids. They want people to go out and, you know, regardless of bring the baby alive. And I'm not going super deep in this. So bear with me, right? They want people to stay alive and babies and everything. Regardless, I don't have any strong opinions on it. But what I'm going to say is, but if all these kids come into the world, how are you going? And most people, well, not most, a lot of people can't afford the kids. Why is this the whole narrative to have as many kids as you want when y'all are trying to cut all these different programs to help families, help people, especially during the times of, you know, the crazy job market, guys? Like, I don't know. I struggle with this whole situation, but
so due to the government shutdown, there will be no SNAP benefits dispersed for November of 2025. And I feel like y'all need to feel this because y'all put those people in position to do this to y'all. Y'all voted for him. Y'all went out thinking that, oh, this man was going to give y'all something. Guess what? They cannot say it's the Democrats or the liberals because guess what? The Republicans own every single part of the government. I'm talking about the Senate, the House, the presidency, and they own the Supreme Court. And it's always going to be about politics. Oh, the Democrats aren't doing this. No, y'all asked for this because y'all thought y'all was going to get a stimulus check and some free money. It's never going to be free. It's always going to be at the cost of the taxpayers' dollars. And they're going to say, oh, it's going to affect the brown and blacks. No, it affects the Caucasity because guess who are on more government benefits than any other ethnicity? The Caucasity people are. And I feel like y'all need to feel that because y'all went and did this. Because guess what? The rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poor. And it is what it is. But y'all know what to do. Get in the comments. Let's go. I'm not upset because guess what? It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect a lot of people that are around me. But it is going to affect kids who are hungry. They're talking about the food banks are open. People are going to be starving in the richest country in the world. And y'all talking about, oh, it's somebody else's fault. No, it's y'all fault because y'all put them people in position.
I'm not even making this about color. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even about, it has nothing to do with color, right? Like, I mean, yeah, people talk and whatever, people have their opinions, but it's not even about color. Yeah, it's Americans. It's people. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's people. This is crazy. But here's a story, and this isn't food stamps, but this is, she's got Medicare. These are because of the Medicaid cuts. Check this out, y'all.
You know, it will forever baffle me It's so baffling to me how there's people in the world who have so much money they could never spend it in their whole lifetime. They could go out and spend like $1 million a day and never notice. And then there's people like me and my family who lost their job and missed out on a few paychecks. And now we're behind over a month in rent. And we're facing an eviction. We have nowhere to go. And I just don't understand. And it's embarrassing to talk about because I'm 23 and now I have an eviction notice. Like, it's not something you think would happen to you. And I'm working so hard right now. I'm working my ass.
Going homeless at 23 is like, that's devastating, guys. Like, what do you say about that? How do you even, and it's not because she's not working. It's not like, seriously, I don't think she's lazy. I don't think she's just not trying to, get a job or whatever. She got laid off and she's still working, I guess other stuff within her life. But seriously, I mean, I'm not saying to give people handouts and all these different, that's not what I'm saying. But there should be, systems in place and, programs in place. And there are programs in place currently. However, they're talking about, they're trying to get rid of these. There should be things in place to, give people some kind of soft landing and then go into this, not hit complete rock bottom and it be done. I get it. There's so many people that take advantage of this. I say this all the time. There are, but I'm just saying, like, when I see videos like this, like, I struggle. When I see videos like this, I struggle. That's it.
Off at my job, and so is my man. But like, how are we supposed to get caught up when everything else is so expensive? And not only that, but like, once you're late, you get late fees. Like, why are you gonna charge me more money for not having money? Late fees should not be allowed to accrue every single day. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just pull it out of my ass? And I hate coming on this app and crying because it's embarrassing, but I'm just so baffled at how this world works right now. Like, it's such a broken system. I just got into the Creator Rewards program, but none of my videos get enough views to even try to get paid. It's like a joke. I'm in the pilot program, but nothing ever sells. I don't know how else to make money.
Yeah, I get it. I completely understand. And this is just American point of view. That's why I show you guys these videos, because it's from a real life American perspective, because that's what we're ultimately here for. We're ultimately here to see how other people are being affected by these policies. These are on the ground videos, guys. It sucks. Like, it literally does suck. And when I see videos of people, oh, you can't ride the government, don't ride the government and depend on the government to live and all these different things, then what is the government there for? What is the government there for? To live civilization. I'm not telling you to have them pay for your whole lifestyle and have them pay for everything in your life, but you're telling me you don't fall on hard times? Is that what you're telling me? You're telling me that you got laid off, you lost a job, and that's it. You just, oh well. Like, does that, am I reaching? Somebody, y'all let me know in the comment section below. Am I reaching? Am I like completely disconnected from this whole thing? I'm not saying that she's got to be on welfare and food stamps and Medicaid and all. I'm not saying she's got to be on these things for the rest of her life. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, guys, she's about to be homeless. She's about to be homeless in her life. Homeless in America. Homeless. She's 23 years old. 23 years old. I can't make this up whatsoever. I literally cannot make this up.
Yeah, this is America.
The US-China trade war ignites with ferocious intensity as Washington's harsh tariffs and tech bans crash into Beijing's unyielding resolve. China's October 9th rare earth export curbs, a precision strike, threatened to cripple US industries like semiconductors and defense. With the S&P 500 plunging 2.7% and the Madrid truce nearing collapse by November 10th, this high-stakes
Revolutionary salute to our brother Vincent Brown Scott for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute.
Clash for global dominance sees Beijing steadfast and Washington reeling. China's state media now escalates, priming for a tense showdown. A fiery China Daily editorial, backed by the CCP, slams US tariffs, export controls, and port fees as hypocritical, accusing Washington of shattering trust and global supply chains. Fueled by Beijing's rare earth restrictions, it warns talks will fail without US restraint, casting the conflict as a high-stakes test of wills.
Cooperation serves both sides' interests, but only when the US walks its talk in the same direction as China. Otherwise, dialogue risks descending into a who blinks first game.
China's economy keeps defying pressure. In the first 9 months of 2025, imports and exports rose 4%, with exports surging 7.1%. Analysts say China's huge domestic market, STEM talent, and industrial ecosystem give it a structural edge. The country is poised to lead the fourth industrial revolution, while the US clings to fading tech advantages. US President Donald Trump defended his hardline approach, but his words reveal a reactive and defensive posture.
And all we're doing is using them as a defense against what took place for many years. China would charge us tariffs. It was incredible, but we weren't allowed to charge. And we're allowed to do whatever we want. We just had presidents that didn't want to do it for whatever reason.
China insists its measures are lawful, measured, and globally responsible. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said,
China implements export control on relevant items in accordance with the law, aiming to maintain regional and world peace better, and fulfill international obligations such as non-proliferation. We urge the U.S. side to correct its wrong practices as soon as possible and resolve relevant issues through dialogue and consultation based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit.
Analysts say the upcoming talks are a reality check for Washington. With the Madrid tariff truce expiring November 10th, China projects calm, principled engagement, confident in its economic and technological might. Experts warn that US coercion may backfire spectacularly, while Beijing's strategic patience ensures it will dominate global trade and tech for decades to come.
hilarious when I hear white farmers complain about how they're losing their government subsidies and how they can't support their farms. My farm is closing down.
We have to have ad hoc payments right now to make it through this year. If there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy.
Until the federal government steps in to save them, farmers have no one to turn to but God.
You know, y'all acting just like a hoe acts like when their sugar daddy moves away.
Oh, sweetheart, you're going to want to sit down for this. See, you think that I'm a farmer on welfare, but see, there's a problem. I'm Black and Native, and you may not know this, but welfare is for white people.
What up, my beautiful Black people? Welcome to Black People Politics Network. I'm Mr. Red. Now, today we're cutting through the noise about farmers and welfare. I know you all have heard all these stories and all these FAFOs, but we've been told a story about who's on government handouts and who's struggling to survive. See, it was always Black people need the handouts. Black people need DEI in order to get hired. But what really happened might surprise some of you all. Because when you take a closer look at who's really getting the subsidies and who's struggling to survive, when you get that closer look, it flips the story on its head. And one Black farmer just broke it all the way down. He called out the hypocrisy. He exposed the truth about farm welfare and showed how resilience looks in action. Let's strap in. Let's get after it.
See, you think that I'm a farmer on welfare, like this guy.
We are possibly going to lose our farm if NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us on the EQIP program. Our EQIP program, which is cost sharing on fences, waters, a well, and some seedings, was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Because of the executive orders, there's a pause or a freeze on the funding through the Inflation Reduction Act.
But see, there's a problem. I'm Black and Native, and you may not know this, but welfare is for white people. Oh, and I mean that literally. The USDA got successfully sued for limiting farm welfare only to white people.
Now, I found this very interesting, and that's why I built today's video around this story. The brother isn't just talking, he's living it. He's a Black farmer and Native. He's talking about all of the people who are starting to lose funding due to the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act was put in place by the Biden administration, and it was trying to help this country recover from the fucking terrible economy that Trump had the first time he was in office. This program, it was supposed to help farmers, help them build wells, fences, seedings, and survive in a brutal economy. And here's the kicker. Check this out. Historically, the USDA literally limited farm subsidies and assistance to Black farmers. And that's not a conspiracy. You probably already figured out that's what they were doing. And then the USDA got their ass sued for it. You have farmers like the one we just watched building his business on private investments and consumer trade, going around the system while the system tried to cheat him. And that's what we've always had to do. For anybody who don't understand this is what Black people are talking about when we say that there's systematic racism. We've always had to find a way around it. And no matter how much we've been cheated, we have to be more resilient. And this has been happening for a long time, that resiliency. And now we're getting blamed for it. We're getting blamed for the fact that a lot of these mega farmers have been getting cushy handouts for so long that they haven't had to be resilient. They just had to wait for the checks. And now it's all fucking falling on their heads.
No, stop crying. Stop bitching. Your people have had centuries of a head start on Black farmers. And yet, for some reason, every other video that I seen on damn Farm Talk, you know, the farm side of freaking TikTok, I'm seeing white farmers bitching, whining, and complaining. Excuse me, my people couldn't even read at one point. So why in the hell am I doing less bitching than you?
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now.
5 of my customers have committed
That's how serious that just is.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think there's a clear example of voting for your own demise than America's farmers. Family farmers are already struggling, but Trump essentially guaranteed their demise.
These farmers across Wisconsin, these farmers across America, these farmers who are struggling, they have no one to blame but themselves. So I quite frankly really don't give a damn because it's your own fault. You decided, yeah, we want to put that guy back in office. Make that make sense. And now here they are, the poor farmers in Arkansas are sitting here crying. You know, I don't know what we're going to do. I know what you should have did. You should have voted for somebody that wasn't going to put tariffs out there. 77% of farming-led counties in the United States of America voted for Donald Trump.
Well, that's just stupid.
77% of these people voted for a man who said he was going to use tariffs against other countries, knowing it would harm their communities. 77% of these farming counties voted for a man despite the fact that they had to get a farmer bailout the last time for the first trade war. They still voted for Donald Trump.
Now, we know that MAGA farmers have voted against their own interests, along with half of America. They voted for a politician who froze the very programs keeping their farms afloat. And when I talk about that politician, I'm talking about Trump. They cheered for deregulation and budget cuts. I want you to think about it. The Republicans are always screaming about deregulation. And what they don't understand is that when you scream for deregulation, the corporations, they cheer. These same farmers supported Trump trade wars that crushed their own export markets. And now they're demanding help from the same government that they themselves tried to starve. Meanwhile, Black farmers like this brother had to learn how to thrive without depending on a system designed to exclude them. And this is what pulling yourself up really looks like.
One of the key elements of Black Boy Magic is that if we can't go through you, then we're just gonna go around you, which is why my business is funded entirely by private investment and consumer trade. Trade deals that I made, by the way, so that your dumbass president can't fuck them up.
Just vote Republican.
The
I mean,
health insurance
you want your chicken, a chicken to cost $7 in the store. You know, you want a hamburger buns to be $4. You want hamburger beef to be, $6.50 a pound.
Yeah.
Vote Republican, because I'm sorry. You can blame liberals for all the fuck you want. You fucking morons in Montana that are so goddamn macho and love your she, you love your fucking billionaires. Like it's as if you think they're going to ever give you anything.
I wonder how long it's going to take the Republican farmers to realize that Trump and J.D. Vance bought stocks in companies that buy up land, aka farmland, and they made the tariffs so that you would lose your land so that they could buy your land and make money. No bailouts are coming.
It's cold.
And guess what? It gets worse. Yep. While these MAGA farmers are losing their land, Trump and Vance, their cronies, they're quietly buying up the land and these farms from the people that they were supposed to be helping. This isn't just hypocrisy. It's a pipeline. They cut off support. The farmers fail, and then the politically connected, they swoop right in and get that farmland next to nothing, and then they can grow all their GMO shit on there. Even worse, if they get the farmland, they can control exactly what we eat, what we pay for it, and something even more sinister, whether or not you deserve to eat. This is past politics, you all, okay? This ain't even fucking funny no more, the type of diabolical shit they want to do. It's about the consolidation of power, land, and wealth. And they are trying to make sure that we need them for everything. They're selling out the same people who supported them. They're sending them straight down the river, and they don't give a shit.
All I know is you motherfucking farmers are shit out of luck. Ain't no motherfucking check coming. You got a backup plan for that? Sold your house, you sold your equipment, your fucking workers are gone, and now the government's shut down, and ain't no fucking checks coming. What the fuck are y'all gonna do now? You don't gotta worry about the soybean fucking contract with China no more. Argentina's got that. And guess how they're fucking doing it? Their fucking government is failing, but the United States, the Trump administration, your fucking guy, they're gonna lend them money to fund their government with the fucking tariff money that they're imposing on you dumb motherfuckers. Does that make any fucking sense? Fuck no. Y'all are double fucked now.
You better hope that I keep paying my taxes so that you can get your EBT benefits, which white people overwhelmingly benefit from. Even after all these centuries, all the affirmative action, all the DEI, all the stuff that you say we don't deserve, I'm still working twice as hard to get half as much just to give the other half to you for free. But that's okay, because I'm going to take my half, I'm going to create magic for me and everybody around me, and we're going to live happily ever after. And you are still going to be sitting there with your free crap whining about it the whole time.
Stay vigilant, stay engaged, stay revolutionary.
And through economic coercion, the Chinese economy will be hurt the most.
China's treasury holdings reportedly fell by $2.8 billion in May, but the numbers are a bit higher than previously thought.
For the fifth month in a row, they've been selling bonds. $16.4 billion is what they sold in August. Danny, that's now the lowest holding of treasuries since 2009.
Belgium, a country with only 11 million people, holds about as much U.S. debt as all of Canada. In 2024, Belgium held $374.6 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. That is a 28% increase from the $293 billion at the start of 2024. And it's even higher right now. That is approximately $32,000 in US government bonds for every man, woman, and child in Belgium. Here's the thing. The Federal Reserve knows it's not Belgium buying. They've written papers about it. They know who it probably is, but they can't prove it. And the real buyer, we'll let you figure out who that is. They're laughing all the way to the bank. While everyone watches China's official holdings decline and thinks, oh, look, China's dumping US debt, the truth might be the exact opposite. Today, I'm going to show you one of the greatest shell games in modern finance and why it means the economic war between the US and China might be a lot more complicated than anyone is telling you. Stay with me to the end to find out why. My name is Elizabeth Ann Stewart, and you are watching Geopolitics and Money. Follow the money, decode the world. And a big thank you to today's show sponsor, Gold Mining Inc. Now let's dive in. The Belgian anomaly. Let's start with the basics. When foreign governments want to buy US Treasury bonds, and they do because despite everything, it is still the safest, most liquid investment on planet Earth. Even though it's declining, it still is. Those purchases show up in data published by the US Treasury Department. It's all public. You can go look it up right now. And for decades, the pattern was predictable. Japan was number one. They've got massive trade surpluses and needed somewhere to park those dollars. China was number two for the same reason. Then you'd see UK, then a bunch of other major economies. But starting in 2011, something weird started happening in Belgium. Belgium's holding of US Treasuries started surging. Not gradually. We're talking about massive sporadic jumps. In 2011, their holdings jumped. Then in 2013 and in 2014, they surged again. By December in 2024, Belgium held $374.6 billion in US debt. And during 2024 alone, their holdings increased by 28%. Now, Belgium is a lovely country. Great chocolate, excellent fries. Yes, Ghent was wonderful. the center of the European Union. But Belgium's entire GDP is about $665 billion, which means they supposedly hold US debt equal to about 56% of their entire economy. Oh, and their government wasn't solid for a 541-day period. That was from 2010 to 2011, when Belgium literally couldn't form a government after an election. Political deadlock, no elected government. And during that time, Belgium's US Treasury holdings started their mysterious surge. So let me get this straight. A country that can't even agree on who's running it is somehow making massive, sophisticated plays in the US Treasury market. The Federal Reserve economists who track this stuff, they're not buying it either. Here's where it gets interesting. Belgium isn't just some random European country. Belgium is home to something called Euroclear. And if you've never heard of Euroclear, don't worry, they like it that way. Euroclear is what's called a central securities depository. Think of it as a massive, ultra-secure vault where governments, companies, and wealthy individuals from around the world park their financial assets. We're not talking about millions here. As of December 2024, and listen up, Euroclear held 40.7 trillion euros in assets under their custody. That's over 40 trillion with a T. When you're a foreign government or a massive financial institution and you want to buy US Treasury bonds, but maybe don't want your name showing up directly in the data, well, you're in luck. You can use a custodian. And Euroclear in Belgium is one of the biggest custodians in the world. Here's how the US Treasury data works. When they report foreign holdings, they attribute those bonds to wherever they're physically held in custody, not necessarily who actually owns them. So if China buys US Treasuries through Euroclear in Belgium, those bonds show up as Belgian holdings in the official data. The Federal Reserve caught on to this years ago. In a 2014 paper, Fed economists Carol Bertau and Ruth Judson wrote about Belgium's sporadic sizable increases and connected them to what they call custodial shifts. A more recent 2023 Fed paper explicitly stated, Euroclear, a major global securities custodian, is based in Belgium. So holdings of US securities attributed to Belgium often belong to residents of other foreign countries who custody these securities with Euroclear. They stopped just short of directly naming China, but they noted that around the same time Belgium's holdings were surging, there were gaps between China's recorded treasury holdings and what should have been there based on China's massive trade surpluses and foreign exchange reserves. The math wasn't mathing unless China was buying through Belgium. Now you're probably asking, why would China bother with this shell game? It's a great question, because on the surface it seems pointless. The US Treasury is going to get its money either way. China still has the same exposure to US debt, so why the charade? There are three reasons, and they're all about leverage and perception. The first is political theater. It's called theater for a reason. And every single country plays into the theater. When you hear headlines about China reducing its US Treasury holdings and China's official holdings dropping from $779.7 billion in January of 2024 to $759 billion in December of 2024, what's the implied threat? It's basically China saying, hey, America, we're pulling our money out. We're losing confidence in you. That's the message. That's economic saber rattling. It makes US policymakers nervous. It makes markets wonder if foreign demand for US debt is weakening. But if China's actually maintaining its exposure through Belgium, Luxembourg, and other financial centers, then the whole thing is a theater. They get to make the political statement without taking the financial hit. Second, avoiding scrutiny. When tensions rise between the US and China, and unfortunately, you know we want peace here, have they risen? That's, of course, something we here on the channel would like to see turn into peace and cooperative interaction. I hope that happens. There's always talk in Washington about potential sanctions, asset freezes, or other ways the US could weaponize the dollar. We saw what happened to Russia in 2022 when the US essentially locked them out of the dollar system after Ukraine. By spreading their holdings across multiple custodians in different countries, China makes it much harder for the US to get a clear picture of their total exposure. And that makes those holdings harder to target if things really do go sideways. Third, market impact control. If China wants to actually reduce its US Treasury holdings, and there are legitimate reasons they might, like diversifying into gold, which they're doing, or other currencies, they can do it gradually through multiple channels without spooking the market. A massive publicized sell-off by China would send Treasury yields spiking, the dollar tumbling, and create exactly the kind of financial chaos that would hurt China's remaining holdings. But if they're selling through proxies, they can be much more strategic. The bigger picture. Here's what makes this story bigger than just Belgium and China. Look at the full list of the top US debt holders as of December 2024. These numbers have changed a little bit this year, but we don't have official reports on them, so I'm keeping the 2024 numbers. Japan was number one with this is insane, $1 trillion, basically. The UK had 722.8 billion. China officially has 759 billion. And now listen to these. Luxembourg, 423.9 billion. Come on. Cayman Islands, 423 billion. Canada, 378.8 billion. Belgium, 374.6 billion. Notice something? The Cayman Islands, population of approximately 70,000 people, supposedly holds more US debt than Canada? That's nearly $6 million in US treasuries per resident of the Caymans. Luxembourg, population of 650,000, is the fourth largest foreign holder of US debt with $423.9 billion. These aren't countries investing their trade surpluses. These are financial centers, hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, and yes, probably Chinese state entities using shell companies and custodial accounts, which is a very normal thing to happen around the world. When you add up the likely Chinese holdings hidden through Belgium, Luxembourg, and other financial centers, China's real exposure to US debt could actually be hundreds of billions higher than the official $759 billion figure from 2024. Some analysts estimate that if you account for these custodial holdings, China might still be holding close to $1 trillion in treasuries, not far below where they were at their peak of 1.3 trillion in November of 2013. And here's the kicker. The Federal Reserve knows. They've written about it. But because of how the international financial system works, with custodial accounts and layers of corporate structures, they can't definitively prove how much of Belgium or Luxembourg's or the Cayman Islands holdings belong to China. It's not illegal. It's not even unusual for large institutions to use custodians. But it does mean that when you read headlines about China reducing its US debt holdings, you should take them with a massive grain of salt. What it means for America and why this even matters. Why should you care about China playing hide and seek with its treasury holdings through Belgium? Because it shows you how the real economic war is being fought. And it's nothing like what you see in the headlines. On the surface, we see tariffs, trade wars, and presidential truth social tweets about China dumping US debt. But underneath, China may be carefully, methodically maintaining its position in the US financial system while appearing to distance itself. It's the financial equivalent of saying, I'm leaving, while keeping a key to the house. And the implications are huge. For US policy, Washington thinks it has leverage because China officially holds less US debt. But if China's real holdings are much higher and hidden, that changes the calculation on tariffs, sanctions, and financial warfare. For the US dollar, all the talk about de-dollarization and the dollar losing its reserve status, well, if China is still parking hundreds of billions in US treasuries through back channels, they clearly don't believe fully dumping the US dollar is a good idea. And for you, when someone tells you China is dumping US debt and that's why we need to worry, ask them, are they though? Or are they just moving it around so it's harder to track? The Belgium trick isn't just about one country's mysterious treasury holdings. It's a window into how the global financial system actually works. It's smoke and mirrors, custodial shifts, shadow banking systems that make the official numbers almost meaningless. Belgium isn't buying $374.6 billion in US treasuries because they believe in American economic might. Euroclear is facilitating someone else's purchases, probably multiple someone else's, who have very good reasons to keep their names out of the headlines. And the next time you hear that China is reducing its US debt holdings, remember Belgium, remember Luxembourg, and remember the Cayman Islands. Because in global finance, nothing is ever quite what it seems. The real game is always being played 3 moves ahead through shell companies, custodial accounts, and tiny European countries with massive unexplained piles of US Treasury bonds. That brings me to our show's sponsor for today, Gold Mining Inc., stock ticker GLDG. With gold hitting north of 4,000
last long at all. He's got to fold. We've seen him do it already. We have
Right.
no leverage.
He's already
We don't have the
folded
cards.
twice on that one, right?
Right. So, I mean, this is what he does. He always puts tariffs on China, says, and then China says, piss off. We don't care what you say. And then Trump gaslights everyone and says, oh, I made some kind of great deal with China, and now we can remove the tariffs. And we just kind of look stupid. And then we go around again. And then Trump threatens tariffs again. I mean, it seems like we're seeing this pattern. But, well, first of all, you know, it makes us look stupid, but are we having some real repercussions from this? I mean, just the damage. I think China now is just understands what it's working with the United States. And it's just like, we're kind of done. And do you see this being like a very,
Yeah, well,
catastrophic?
China, yeah, it's just like China has clearly just chosen to take a hard line and not to make any efforts to appease the U.S. They used to, try to, avoid conflict, to always lower the temperature. But that's just not true. This year we saw the response to the initial tariffs that Trump opposed, back in the spring, and China came right back, with reciprocal tariffs. And then in the last few weeks, we've seen them, take other measures. Where before they were trying to at least make the appearance of complying with these anti-Russian sanctions, they've essentially abandoned that. They just like, we really just don't care anymore. We're buying Russian oil. Our banks are working with Russia. If you want to put sanctions on, that's your problem. It's like, we don't care what you do. We're not going to really, to comply with these clearly unjust laws that violate our sovereignty. And most importantly, is just very recently, they tightened up the restrictions on the rare earths, especially those that have military uses. That was the focus. There's still rare earths that are available for civilian uses, but there are certain rare earths that are just are vital to the military industrial complex here in the U.S.
and high tech, including AI.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
And also, that's right. But also there's certain kind of magnets, high performance magnets that again are just absolutely essential, to advanced weaponry here in the U.S. And we've been getting that from China. And I think, just quite recently, China says, well, they're constantly threatening war against us. Why are we, handing them the means to attack us? This is crazy. We're going to know more. We're not going to help you prepare for war against us. And so they tightened it up. And that just, that infuriated Trump, when he said, because he found out it was not just that China had impose these restrictions on, exports of rare earths and certain technologies to the U.S., but was also telling other third countries like India, say, you can buy rare earths from us, but on the condition that you do not re-export them to the U.S. And he said, how can you do this? Interfere on a third country? There was absolutely no self-awareness in that tweet. They say, wait a second, why are they behaving so hostile? But, another thing I didn't mention is that, okay, we've had these trade talks, they went back, both sides removed the 100% tariffs and so forth, right? Back I think it was in May. But the U.S. has continued to slap up restrictions, have targeted certain industries and companies within China. And, it continued to behave in this very hostile way. Now, China has responded. And it's like, I can't believe this, why they're so hostile and even, interfering in our relationship with other countries. This is something that the U.S. does every day and has done for years and years. There's just no self-awareness, but I think it's true. It's just like, we are the hegemon and you're not, that's it. There's one standard for us, another for you. And that's just so clear, in the reaction. I remember back, it was actually in the Obama years, prior to the SMO, well, yeah, both the Obama years and previous Trump administration, but there was, we began shutting down consulates and reducing staff, in the Russian embassy here. These were hostile actions taken against Russia. And then, but when Russia responded, initially Russia didn't respond. They tried to appease, tried to lower the temperature. I remember, I think it was with Obama's first, it was some measures that he took against the Russian embassy, at the end of his second term. But then later they began to respond in kind. You shut down 2 consulates, of ours, we shut down 2 consulates of yours, that kind of thing. It's going to be tit for tat. And the U.S. just seems to be like, how can these hostile reactions, it's not necessary for them to do this. Yes, well, it's not necessary, but, it's just like you go up and slap somebody, that person's going to slap you back. That's, you can't pretend surprise or, it's just, but there seems to be in the American consciousness, it's not seems to be, there clearly is this double standard. And it's just a sense of entitlement, a sense of, we are the hegemon. We are, the normal rules don't apply to us. So we had an infuriated Trump, and then he threatened the 100% tariffs. I don't think he's actually walked them back yet. I mean, he came out with that really silly tweet where he said, what she was just had a bad, read that. It's really funny.
So yeah, his first tweet where he was going on about China's aggressive position and how China is a moral disgrace. And then two days later, he tweets, "Don't worry about China. It will all be fine. Highly respected President Xi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I. The USA wants to help China, not hurt it. President DJT." So, it's fine. We're great friends. We're trying to help China. We don't want to hurt it.
Yeah,
right.
So well, that's the thing. Is right. Whatever the U.S. does, we're just trying to help. We're never engaged in hostile actions, right?
Right. You say that we have that attitude of where we're always just say we are the hegemon, so they have to just listen to us. But I mean, I think what we're seeing from these actions that clearly that we are no longer the hegemon. That's why China's able to just say piss off. No, we're not playing this game. You know, we're draw a line. You know, it's actually exposing. Like I had no idea before the tariff started about the complete monopoly China had on rare earths. But guess what? Now everybody knows. You know, everybody knows that China has us by the balls. They can do anything, you know, like we are completely reliant for them on our high tech sector. I mean, really everything, you know, I was seeing also just how much US farmers are dependent now on selling their soybean crops to the biggest soybean buyer, which is China. No surprise, 1.4 billion people. They like their tofu. They need soybeans, you know, and now thanks to all of the Belt One Road initiative, they have, you know, a great ports and supply chain set up with Argentina and Brazil. They were just able to pivot, and now we're left holding, our farmers here are left holding the bag. That's just one example. But then it's just on so many different levels. And if you think about it, it's just common sense. Like, yeah, what does America make? Movies, music, you know, and even then, a lot of it, 10 cents buying up a lot of that, making a lot of it too. China just has all the leverage. I can't believe that we've engaged in this type of behavior when we don't have any cards. Are you surprised as well?
Yeah, well, actually, I am. I am. That you would think there would be some strategic thinking at the higher levels. You know, we have this war planning, and you know, we're often doing war games. There's obviously preparations for a possible, maybe eventual war with China. You know, that this has been ongoing for years and years and years, but that you would do all this without stopping and just thinking, well, wait a second, you know, everything that's in our, you know, the essential components in our F-35 and all these other things, they come from China. We don't make them themselves. Maybe we better do something about this, you know, and we obviously didn't. I mean, I think it is quite extraordinary, and it shows just a very serious, a complete, it's really a fiasco. I mean, it's just a total failure. You think you're the world hegemon, but then you let yourself, you know, again, these essential components out of your grip. I remember, you know, talk about and worry about that, you know, decades ago, but obviously nothing was ever done.
Right. I remember that too, just thinking that, and I was kind of just aware of it just in the background. I mean, just everybody knows, you go to Walmart, everything's made in China. But the rare earths, I always assumed that, okay, we spend $1 trillion a year on our military. Well, surely we're able to make our own stuff, but surprise, we don't. Over 50% of the components for all of our military equipment comes from China. And then the rare earths, you know, they have basically a complete monopoly on that, and 90% of the rare earths. But I think almost like for some of the technology and the separation process, it's only China that can do some of this stuff, apparently. So it's just, they have just this complete monopoly, and we require some like 450 kilos worth of rare earths for one F-35, but for like a submarine or a destroyer, thousands and thousands of kilos of rare earths. We can't build diddly squat without it. You know, our military is and we're already low. We've already talked about this many times, just how our MIC is not able to scale up. We don't have the manufacturing capacity. We can't. One thing the war in Ukraine has shown us is that we are unable to engage in a war in attrition. The only thing that's keeping Ukraine in the fight is their drones, where those components come from China. You know, it's just it's just such an insanity to me that our idea, the only thing I think America has left is just to keep saying we're number one. And if we just believe it hard enough, maybe Trump is thinking, maybe I'll just die with that belief, and then I don't worry about what happens next. Just keep on believing, you know. That it does feel that way, though.
Yeah,
we just have to go on belief.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, again, it further demonstrate what kind of MIC we have, and it's an MIC that lines the pockets of lots of people. Many people are making lots of money out of these systems, but it's not an MIC that really strengthens, you know, I can't say entirely, you know, it's not like these weapons have no value, but it clearly isn't geared to actually, you know, help us win a war against a peer adversary, you know, whether we're talking about Russia or China. It's one that has, again, it enriches all kinds of people, and so a lot of people are very happy with it. And there's just and I think that's why, probably these issues have come up in the past. Is, hey, wait a second, we're letting, but too many people were making money about it, and there's just this terrible smugness, and by the way, we are number one, so let's not worry about it too much, okay?
Right. Right. Well, what do you think is going to happen then? Trump is going to have to back down, but I don't see China changing its export controls on rare earths, because exactly what we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about pivoting to Asia constantly, how the biggest threat is China, and how China, I hear it all the time. I hear it on Joe Rogan had this ex-CIA guy on, and he was actually pretty critical about Israel and said some interesting things. But when he's talking about the real enemy, it's always China, saying that China is somehow influencing and they're working to get us to fight and divide ourselves. It's like, come on, guys, we do that well enough ourselves. China doesn't. They don't even. Yeah, it is absurd. It's so. I just think everybody that has an opportunity to go to China should just go to China. I mean, it's just not what they think. This idea that there's a social credit score, all this stuff. It's just, it's insane. It doesn't exist. I lived there 10 years in Shanghai, and it's a great place. So but there is this concerted effort to demonize China. It's very clear. And so many people buy into it because nobody really gets to go over there and experience it themselves. So few people
and to demonize Russia and Iran. And again, I think the best antidote is to go there. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, so then what do you think will happen, though? Because if China truly does have this monopoly, and they seem to be, they understand that the way that the US is going and behaving, that, okay, well, we sorry, we're cutting you off, no more. And if that's the case, then not only is our MIC screwed, so is much of our tech sector, right? And we're seeing some other interesting moves. I don't know if you saw this as well. Just today in the Netherlands, there's a Chinese chip company there. I guess it's owned by a Chinese chip company, but the Dutch government just enacted some wartime power that they've never used before, to just nationalize it. Say, sorry, we're taking over. We're taking over your whole chip company for security reasons.
Right. It was a subsidiary of a Chinese company. I think it had a Chinese CEO, and they're just taking it over. Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's quite extraordinary. It's a part of this economic war. And
but we can't win the economic. We don't make anything. I don't understand, why do you want to get in an economic war when you have no economic might behind you?
No, I think it is very foolish. I agree. It's just say, okay, be honest. Hey, like, if you want to, you realize there's a problem here. Like, for example, we've become too dependent on China. The solution is to build up our own industries, and they say, okay, we're going to have, maybe there's going to be a 10-year project or 20-year project. We took a wrong turn decades ago. We're going to go on a new course. Because, China made these decisions, strategic decisions. They actually did, identify critical industries 20, 30 years ago and began working on them. And we're just going to have to do the same. I mean, maybe it's hard for us to do. We're very kind of allergic to planning, but the thing is, we can do it. We've done it in the past, and you can work
in the past.
Yeah,
I don't think
I know.
I
have the sense that we can't anymore. But there was an America that could have done it before.
Right.
Again, we
back
put a man on the moon.
Was,
we could.
Yeah, pre-World War II, we were doing. Yeah, right. When we were wearing high pants and talking fast, and then that's when things were getting done. But now it seems like. There's no way. We can't plan 1 year in the future or the next day in the future. Right. Doing a 20-30 plan, no.
Yeah, again, like I say, we just have a very corrupt system, when it comes to this, that, again, it reaches a lot of people, and they're gonna fight any real change, and so I think that real change is very unlikely.
Right, and there's just so many bureaucracies and other things as well, just to slow things down, that everybody will want to wait, you just see it. Remember that bridge that fell down, and I don't know if it was in Boston, some ship ran into it and it collapsed. It was a couple of years ago.
Was it Baltimore or something?
Baltimore, maybe something like Baltimore, but somewhere in the Northeast. But anyways, that's been 2 years now, and I saw an update. They put one pole sticking out of the water so far. That's all that's been done.
Right.
And it's we can't even repair this existing infrastructure. It's been 2 years where You know, you see China, they built the world's highest bridge, massive, in about the same amount of time. Or, you know, Gavin Newsom's high-speed rail. There's just like 1 kilometer of track in the desert that took them 10 years and cost billions of dollars. So you just know that the corruption is so deep that like, oh, well, we better get zoning permission for this, but it'll cost $20 million and we'll sit at the office and people will pay and then we'll talk about it, go through this other bureaucracy. It doesn't get done. We just know that we can't do it anymore. We don't have that capability to build. So it's just, there's too much raw in the system. And I think everybody that is part of the system kind of understands that. And they understand that the game to play is that we need to just loot. Everybody needs to grab their own bag while they can. We're in the loot the empire stage. It's collapsing, too much debt, too much whatever. So there's no planning. There's no way we can do this. And so do you agree though? Right. I mean,
yeah, well, I guess I do. I guess I'm just very pessimistic. Theoretically we could, but I just don't see it happening. I'm right. You're right. You know, in general, but again, we should be turning inwards and facing our own problems. Like, you know, we're angry at China that they control 90% of the rare earths. But why get angry at China? You know, this means they did their job and we didn't.
Right.
So let's just stop, instead of being angry at China, just say, hey, okay, we obviously dropped the ball a couple of decades ago. Let's try to figure things out and you know, and we got to get along with China. They got 90%. That's the reality, my friends. But maybe we can, you know, you know, do things to actually, you know, improve our situation at home so that we're not so weak vis-a-vis China, you know, and rather than lash out at them, seize their companies, you know, and, you know, impose more fines on their, you know, on their CFOs or whatever. Well, we arrested the CFO of Huawei, you know, and,
right. That was in Canada, I think.
Right.
Right. But I mean, the very obvious stance to take is, if you see somebody that has done something very well, don't get jealous and angry. Say, wow, good job. How did you do that? Could you help me do that?
Yeah.
Like that's the normal response. And most people, when they hear that, like it feels good. Like, thanks, man. Great. Yeah. Let me show you how I did that. Let me help you guys out, you know,
or
like,
wait a second, we can do that too. And, you know,
right. Oh yeah. Or that stance. But I'm saying there can't be an amicable stance like that. Like that's just, it's good to be, you know, to find something, another country that's done something better than you. That's good. It's like, hey, wow, great job on that, you know, and don't be petty. Don't be jealous. Like did you do something good? That's for the world. That's something that the whole world will benefit from. Fantastic. Well, maybe we can work on building some of that stuff too. How'd you do it? What, you know, there's so much opportunity to share. Like if the US was able to adopt that sort of policy, it's kind of the relationship we're kind of seeing a bit more between Russia and China that we're being forced into. Let's be part of that too. Why do we have to be here just pissing everybody off? It just seems such a clear solution. Like, hey, all right, yeah, well, you know, and I know the personalities of like just Putin and I know she would be similar, that they respect what America did in the past and many things, our achievements, and I think they would be proud to be able to work with us. They don't want to be our enemies, and I just seems so silly that we can't take that stance to say, like, why can't we all be friends?
Yeah,
you know,
right. Well, it seems like we're actually
so
working hard to make them into enemies. That's the unfortunate thing.
And it's so clear that they don't want to. You just hear it every time Putin talks. He's just like, oh, I know Trump is a great guy, trying well, doing his peace, trying to be peaceful. It's like, we're talking about launching Tomahawk missiles in your country, and you're saying how he's doing, you know, and we're directing the Ukrainian troops, and we're funding all this money in, and then we're just pissed. It just doesn't make any sense. I just don't get it. But I just wonder, I feel like there has to be some point that reality slaps us in the face so hard that we come to that conclusion. Do you think that's possible? Or do you think our automatic response is to just bomb?
I think at some point we will. I just don't know how far it's going to go. It may go all the way to World War III. I don't know. Clearly, you know, even though reality is starting to hit us, slap us in the face in different ways, and you know, you can say, well, there's the economic war against China, you know, which we have we clearly lost the first round, and then we threatened the second round, but then backed out of that, and looks like we're going to back out of a third round because the reality is there. Yeah, don't forget also the economic war against Russia and what a miserable failure that is. There's still really no admission of that, but it was a horrible failure, and most of the world can see it. And I'm sure that at some point, I don't know, at some point, it's going to get through. But I'm not going to make any predictions when, because obviously it's not just Trump, but it's the establishment. It's more than the establishment. It's the American people have invested so much in the sense that we're number one, and that we almost have a divine right to be number one. And how dare you suggest otherwise? Again, that's not going to go easily. But it will have to go. Again, reality will win in the long run. And I don't know. I mean, it'll probably take more than one crisis that eventually to drive it home.
Yeah. Well, you say that, Trump will back down. I think he will have to some extent, but I think this one will be a little bit different because these export controls on the rare earths, if China doesn't remove them.
Yeah.
We're in
It is
trouble.
right. It's a
So
stranglehold on
different-
our MIC, and it's
Right.
And that's
the
probably
AI
what
sector as well.
that's probably what happened is that actually his close advisors came to him and said, "Man, the Chinese have done this. We're in deep doo-doo here. This is really serious, Trump. We got to do something about this." And we saw the emotional response to that long tweet and the 100%
Right.
tariffs. So again, it's not like everything that Trump does is not carefully thought out. That's the problem. We have somebody on the one hand, we have a country and a government that has been planning this for decades. And then we have in the US, we have Donald Trump, and that just means, again, these tweets, it's not decades of planning, but it's just an emotional response where very little, if any, thought is put into the consequences. And so
Right.
this is where we are. He's flailing about, and he's going to lose this too. He hasn't, the Chinese have got all the cards. They've been working on getting those cards, assembling those cards over the years and the decades. And
We have no cards.
Yeah, right. You can vent all you want, and you can threaten all you want, but in the end, you're going to lose. You
Right.
haven't prepared for this, and your threats are empty at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I don't know, either the US has to make some big concession and to China and then be able to get access to rare earths, or China might just be like, it doesn't matter what you say, your aggressive rhetoric and posturing and the everything over Taiwan, the South China Sea, we're not giving you any of these things because you're talking about attacking us, so why would we do that?
Right.
And and if that's the case, then we're just screwed because we won't be able to develop that industry the way our government works. We'll probably never develop it. But even if it was working efficiently, like you said, it'd take 20, 30 years to be able to catch up to anything slightly remotely similar to at least be self-sufficient, in the process that China has developed, So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I really don't know how this one's going to play out, but I don't think Trump is going to be able to just pull a reverse Uno like he's did on all the other ones and just say like, oh, okay, yeah, deal, and nothing really happened, just remove the tariffs. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
You want to make a prediction?
I'm not going to make any predictions about Trump. I think that's a mistake.
Okay. All right. Well,
of news to get to. We got a lot of guests on the show today, so let's get into it. Well, did they just try to assassinate President Trump for a third time? The timing is a little more than suspicious. So just days before the No Kings protest kicked off, the Secret Service reportedly found an elevated hunting stand in a Florida tree-lined position with a direct line of sight to where President Trump would exit Air Force One in Palm Beach County. So a perfect place to fire a rifle round. And this wasn't just some random discovery, by the way. Agents uncovered it during an advanced security preparation sweep from the Secret Service ahead of his arrival in Palm Beach on Thursday. So here is this platform. Take a look at, here's the tree, here's the sniper platform up in this tree. And you might say, okay, whatever, big deal. This could just be a coincidence. After all, it's archery, crossbow season, muzzle loading gun season right now in Palm County. And Palm County sits in Zone C. If you're a hunter, you know what this is. And you can see here the open dates for these particular seasons: crossbow season, archery season. By the way, it's far enough away that there's no way you're hitting President Trump with a bow and arrow. Okay, it's hunting season in this particular part of the country right now, going after white-tailed deer. But here's the twist. Hunting is not allowed in this area. It's illegal, in fact. Federal, state, local regulations prohibit the discharge of firearms in this spot at all in residential areas, and specifically hunting next to airports for safety reasons. Also,
Seems
just
reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, don't shoot bullets near airplanes. That makes a lot of sense. Also, just look at the Palm Beach airport. Does this look like a good hunting area to you? Like, hey, I'm going to go out hunting, honey. Yeah, you going up in the mountains? No, I'm going next to the highway next to the Palm Beach International Airport. Okay, here's a closer look at the location where this sniper tree stand was located. Look at this. So here's the tree stand on the left. Line of sight in this little copse of trees facing the international airport where Trump would land. By the way, we'll get into all this in a second because it's just unbelievable as I'm going through all the data on this. Like, just take a look at this map. This is, here's an Apple map so you can just see what this looks like. I mean, you're not going hunting next to the highway in a little copse of trees, because a lot of people online are like, that tree stand was there. It's used for hunting. It's no big deal. No, it's not. It is a big deal. It's illegal. Doesn't look like a good hunting spot to me at all. Right next to the highway with almost no trees around whatsoever. But even if you thought this was a good spot, it's illegal to fire a gun from this location, and it's not allowed. The spot is located specifically within an established no discharge and no hunting FAA safety zone. So it's illegal to fire any kind of a firearm near the airport. And take a look at this, just so you see what's also very odd about this location. You can see in red is the tree location. Notice what's right there next to it. Yeah, that's a police department. Forensic Service is part of the police department. And then just separate from that, just a scroll, if you go to the left here a little bit, the Army Reserve Center is right there. Okay. Then a little bit further down the road is a gun club. Then right below that is a criminal justice complex with the sheriff's department and a full gun range. Very similar to things we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania during Trump's assassination attempt there with the Butler Gun Club and HSI. HSI, of course, Homeland Security Intelligence Services, who were very hung out at the Butler Gun Club on a regular basis. And we know that they like to hang out at these same gun clubs right here next to this Palm Beach International Airport. I'm just saying coincidence, but it's all very odd.
It's basically Walden Pond, very recluse, where you can go and do some relaxing hunting.
Like, hey, honey, this year for vacation, next year we're going to go to a little copse of trees right next to the highway, right next to the airport.
Yes.
So quiet and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I might do a little hunting while I'm there.
Okay.
Up in the tree line.
It's like my second favorite way to camp. My favorite way is any other way. Any other place is better than that. But my
bonus if there's a 7-Eleven right next to it.
Yeah, or a Walmart parking lot, maybe. Exactly. More relaxing. Also, I find it interesting that someone searched for Palm Beach airport forests over 100 times prior to the Secret Service finding a sniper blind in a Palm Beach airport forest. That's interesting, isn't it? Why would anyone, and by the way, I went back years to look at search results for this as I was looking for this. Why would anyone in the world search for Palm Beach airport forests?
the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Like, and this happens right before the Secret Service conveniently find this thing. Okay, just days before it would be discovered by Secret Service. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino was on his favorite network, Fox News, today to update everyone about this. Well, listen.
But we saw this disturbing thing, a hunting stand, right in the area of Palm Beach Airport, which would have had a clear shot at Air Force One. We can see it. What could you tell us about this, Dan?
Yeah, I was on the phone about this all day yesterday. It's interesting. When I got back from the mall, most of my you don't get the days off here. It's not what you sign up for. So, it's unfortunate sometimes we got to take care of these things. We wish they wouldn't happen. But here's what happens with this. Let me walk the American public through how this works. The FBI is not responsible, obviously, for the security plan of the president. That's the purview of the Secret Service. However, if the Secret Service finds something that they believe could be criminal, I want to emphasize it could be, we take over. We have what's called an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the Secret Service, where we will investigate after that. I was on the phone yesterday, back and forth with the D2, the deputy director over at the Secret Service, Matt Quinn, great guy. They were very concerned. Their security sweep discovered this hunting stand. The director was, Kash Patel, was directly involved right away. I'm on the email chain with him. He ordered an immediate response. I believe we had our plane flown down there. This hunting stand was appropriately dismantled, being flown to our lab. I believe it's there right now. And all of the forensic tools we have, from digital tools to biometric tools, they are all going to be applied to try to find out who put this up there and why.
Mr. Deputy Director.
All right. So
The same people who found no silverware in the Butler alleged shooter apartment.
Yeah.
That's the kind of answers we will expect.
Well, I mean, again, it's ridiculous. And people are like in the chat are like, well, there's nothing new here. This was just a simple hunting tree stand. Yeah. In an area where you're not allowed to hunt. Okay, fine. And as the deputy director just confirmed, it was, in fact, a hunting stand. It wasn't a tree house. Like, kids weren't there. By the way, it was literally next to an industrial zone. There's no houses anywhere near this particular spot. So it's not like some kids just built a tree house behind the sheriff's station with a direct line of sight to where Air Force One lands. But we'll get more details on this. I'm sure it's totally nothing to see here.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you how the World Health Organization is spying on you. They told us so. This is what they're looking for, the next pandemic, they say. But okay, this is a new tracking software called Epidemic Intelligent from open source. Was popular in March, will
Times in the chat. I was just texting back in the chat room here because they're the ones that quoted specifically people in the room. I also said separate sources from the White House confirmed the yelling and screaming that was happening at the White House with Zelensky. So, so multiple sources, but they had a direct quote, and I just wanted to quote what they had to say. So, yes, sometimes they get it right.
Yeah, and
sometimes they get it right.
if you don't like that screenshot, next time we'll write it on a Post-it.
Yeah,
put it up for you.
All right,
maybe you like that better. Well, former National Security Advisor John Bolton was indicted for handling classified information in his own personal way. It's hilarious. Now, CNN and the media who love him are calling this lawfare. They are literally defending John Bolton, the man who pushed the Iraq war, who agitated bombing in Iran, who has wanted that his whole life, basically, cheered the destruction of Libya, justified spying on Americans, backed the coup in Venezuela and Syria, spent a lifetime volunteering other people's children for bloody battlefields. He has never seen a conflict that he didn't want to send U.S. blood into. He has premier status for his reservation in hell. I'm very comfortable saying that. But CNN loves him because he used to work for Trump and he will take a hit at Trump anytime. So he makes for good TV for them. So what does the indictment allege that he did? He created a group chat with what we think is his wife and daughter and took copious notes about his time in the Trump administration and sent secret information on the chain to write this book that he was planning, which he did publish in 2020. Now, is this President Trump getting back at him? Well, it'd be pretty hard to prove that since the prosecution began under the Biden administration. Even in the New York Times says what's so unusual about this is that it's very usual. It followed the normal chain of indictment, witnesses, investigation, all of that. Was there criminal intent? Well, It would be hard to prove that he didn't know any better, given that he likes to go on TV and say that people who mishandle classified documents should be murdered. He said Edward Snowden should get the death penalty. Julian Assange, President Trump. It would be hard to argue that, given he says this on TV all the time, he didn't know it was wrong. But then there is this gold from the indictment where he's sending his wife and daughter, presumably, this 24-page document. He calls it a diary. And then he says, none of which we'll talk about. And the individual says, that's right. Shh. So stupid. I could not stop laughing about that. And he says, more come over cloak and dagger. Like he's basically Pink Panther.
He loves himself. He
Right.
really loves himself.
He shared information, it said there, at the top secret SCI level. So clearly he knows. Joining us to discuss is Lionel from the Lionel Nation YouTube channel, who says, yeah, he's in deep doo-doo. This is maybe one of the stronger ones to come out of the Justice Department in a while. So Lionel,
Well,
great.
we should also point out that Lionel is a constitutional attorney, former
Yes.
prosecutor who knows
yeah.
this stuff inside and out. We'll just throw that in there.
And I'm always the Grim Reaper, great name, whenever it comes to giving you bad news as to another failed attempt at getting these people. The Comey indictment is going to go bye-bye. The Tish James one is, but this one, dead meat. Dead meat. Dead meat.
Why?
And here's
Why?
the beautiful
Why?
part about it. Okay, first of all, Natalie, lawfare. What does that mean? You might as well say you're being mean. Lawfare means nothing. Who cares? If you're driving 80 miles an hour in the school zone, and I'm thinking, is that Natalie? Yeah, get her. Boo. Did you stop me? Yes. Because it's me? Yes. And you were going 80 miles an hour. Who cares why I stopped you? What difference does it make? Does it make any sense? That's civilian talk. Here's why this is different. And this is the facts are beautiful. In 17 months, this guy worked for Trump, and he turned over this book like that. And they said, wow, this is pretty good. Wow, look at these notes. And he's smart. Well, as you said, as he's going through top secret meetings and stuff he should not be telling anybody about, he writes notes down, which are fine. He then takes them, transcribes them to a Word doc. He has about 1,000 pages of this, sends it to daughter and mom for them to review via AOL or something. By the way, a lot of people use AOL. Don't kid yourself. They're also using fax machines. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not as, in fact, Hollywood scripts right now are being sent more and more with fax. Anyway, so he sends this. Now, they're put together. They then review this. They turn the proposed book over to the DOJ. The DOJ says, we don't like this in your book. Okay, fine. He's claiming First Amendment. He said, you cleared my book. You went through it. This is selective prosecution, malicious prosecution, whatever it is. He's lawfare. All that doesn't mean anything. What does lawfare mean? It doesn't mean anything. So anyway, here's the issue. This is one of the best indictments ever. Whoever wrote this one knows what they're doing, as opposed to those Eastern District cut and paste on a Selectric. I mean, those were terrible. This was fantastic. One of the allegations was, I forget, page 53, they said, none of the allegations, nothing that we are saying today, none of the 18 counts has anything to do with the book. There you go. So what they're doing is this. It's not the book, John. It's not the fact that you don't get a clearance on top secret information. They don't clear top secret information. That's not it. You basically reduced to writing and revealed over non-secure transmission to non-approved civilians information that was top secret or sensitive. That is it. End of discussion. That's it. Now, for a lot of people looking for espionage, this isn't espionage. These names, treason, sedition, that's not it. He's not the Rosenbergs. He's not Kim Philby. This isn't the Cambridge Five. No, it's very simple. Remember John Deutsch, 1996, head of the CIA? He took a laptop home with him. They were going to hang him. You don't do this. This is like, and Iran, forgot to mention, they hacked him. He was being not by some Nigerian banker, but some Iranian. So this goes to show you, John, this is what happened. So we don't know what happened, where this went. So to recap this, very, very simple. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you expect anything exciting, no. Number one, he wrote these things down, which is fine. Number two, he reduced them to writing on a Word doc. That's okay on a secured phone. You can do that. But he sent it to civilians. I don't care if it's your daughter, your publisher, your friend, your neighbor. I don't care if it was for personal gain, if it was to write a book. It doesn't matter. This is very black and white, very cold, very specific. This is the stuff as a prosecutor I love. It's like I said, speeding. Were you going over the speed limit? That's it. Don't care why. Unless there's an emergency, which never happens. Just very cut and dry. He's toast. Now, is he going to go to prison? No. No. Now, is this selective prosecution? No. Now, other people are saying maybe he shouldn't have been charged. John Deutsch was in charge. Hillary Clinton was in charge. Maybe Comey. We can argue this all day long. Who should be? Remember Sandy? Who was it? Sandy Berger? Who's the guy who stuffed the documents down his pants? And it's, excuse me, this is all prosecutorial discretion. As a prosecutor, people forget this. When you go into a courtroom, you got to feel really good about this case. And if you think, my heart's not in this, okay, fine. It's up to you. Excuse me. There is no mandatory basis that you must charge people with things. You believe me, you don't have to do that. So let me just say, you can talk about he's a merchant of evil and all that. Yeah. And by the way, Natalie, he's nothing. The people who make him look like a Girl Scout are people in higher level intel. You don't even know their names. Sure. They are so ghoulish, so psychopathic. He's a foot soldier. Remember, anybody whose name you're given, they're not in charge. When you hear Soros, he's not in charge. So they love to put these people out there. And he loves being, the Wilford Brimley, I am the walrus kind of a thing. He's mysterious. By the way, he's a warmonger and everybody loves him. I mean, every administration loves him because he trashes everybody. He is by the way, in the intel community, what people will say is he is such a rat. Even the intel people hate him because they love quiet and they love understanding that it's the mission. You don't ever give up the commander. You don't give up somebody. You're going to betray the mission. He is so horrible in terms of this persnickety, priggish, weird old. He's like a Karen. You know what I mean? He really. But that notwithstanding, this is cut and dry, and they are going crazy. All of the usual suspects, the people who love him, they're saying, "John, we can't help you on this one." Comey, yes. Tish James, maybe. That case is harder than you think because there's Fannie Mae rules and mortgage fraud is not really what you think it is. Okay, fine. This is simple. And let me tell you something. This is Trump's finest hour. I don't know what Pam Bondi's doing. I don't know if Todd Blanchard's in charge. I don't know who they are. But whoever drafted this in Maryland, they know what they're doing.
Okay, let's pretend you're his defense attorney then. You plead. What will happen to him? Big fine, big slap on the wrist?
Mercy.
What?
Mercy, probation, some kind of whatever it is. You're going to bring in how he did so much for his country. I'll do the old kind of the Sicilian flu. He's kind of up there. He's not as sharp, doesn't have his fastball anymore. That kind of stuff. He's whatever. They're not going to put him in prison. No, absolutely not. But the point is he'll lose any and all. To be dethroned, to be defanged from your position. Think about this. All you've been is intel behind the lines, and people like when I'm sure when he shows up to the cafeteria at Langley, they say, "John, this is like so sophomoric. What are you doing? And putting his wife and his." When you're doing this, you're saying, "Hey, listen, guys, this thing that you're reading on guess who's going to come to our house and take your stuff, your laptop? I'm putting you in jeopardy. And by the way, when the feds take it, you don't get it back. Or if you get it back, it's wiped out. And your computer is your life. So this idiot, he could have done it differently. He could have hired somebody within the world. And let me just say something very, very quickly. there's an arrogance here. You want to talk about something? There's this arrogance. There's this idea that you can't touch me. We don't need no stinking badges. I'm not.
Right.
I'm John Bolton. I'm John freaking Bolton. You don't understand.
I got a bestseller novel coming out. You're
Yeah.
gonna love
Who is it? Leona Helmsley said, taxes are for poor little people. You don't know who I am. I'm too big for this. Trump got him. And let me tell you something. It is about time, because so far, can you name the big name politicians? Can you name anybody? Comey. That's a disaster. Tish James, are you really? Okay, well, that'll do. I guess.
No.
A couple of judges here and there.
Epstein
Nothing.
files.
Nothing.
What is that? And Epstein, by the way, is getting worse because it's with this Prince Andrew. Don't get me started with that. Oh, and one more thing real quick. I know this has nothing to do with this. Guess who is furious with Trump? Diddy. I know you don't care about this. Diddy said, George Santos gets a pardon, not me. Identity theft. They got me on this archaic man act. Do you know how many people I can bring down? And you, George Santos? What? Diddy is furious. So when people get furious and they feel betrayed and they feel like I've been forgotten, watch what happens with that. Oh, so let me tell you something. Don't let this no kings, no brain stuff fool you. That was performative nonsense. That was a kabuki dance going nowhere, my friend. Let me tell you that Trump is such a genius. I don't know if he's a savant. I don't know if he knows what he's doing. He said something. One day he brings people in. Zelensky, like you mentioned before, says, by the way, Zell, it's over. Have a nice day. Why am I here? Get out of here. Next, he's just. And now let's go out in the patio and look how we destroyed the Rose Garden to make a food court like a mall. He's like, what are you? And have you seen what he's done to the Oval Office? It looks like a Cracker Barrel gift shop. What is this?
Yeah.
I love this guy. But let me tell you something. Trump doesn't forget. He doesn't forget. He can wait. He's like a Cape Buffalo. They have a grudge, and I love it. And I want to get
right.
And also Hillary. Remember, they walked on her. I mean, they forgot it. Biden. What about all those files? Are they still in his garage? We don't know whatever happened to that. University of Pennsylvania, the China thing. So maybe this will rekindle, reinvigorate, and resuscitate an interest in perhaps maybe breathing life into those cases. One can dream, my friends. One can dream.
Or this idea that there's equal justice under the law. And if you do this classified information bit, you're going to get prosecuted no matter. I know. This is utopia.
Such a Pollyanna. Clayton, how do you deal with this? It's like, what you think he'd be battle hardened and nothing like Clayton and I?
I know.
We have no
15
faith in
years of
anything.
this he's been dealing with.
Yep.
15 years. Yeah.
15 of the greatest years of my life.
We are going to be looking at some disturbing videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. Oh yes, if anybody has been subscribed to me for quite some time, about a couple years ago, you would know that I was talking about very strange and bizarre incidents happening on planes. Mainly the very bizarre passenger behavior, which led us down a few rabbit holes, but once again, we're going to go ahead and talk about planes. And it would seem like this mysterious incident that I'm going to go ahead and talk about happened twice, almost back to back. Reading this article from Unilad.com, United Airlines pilot injured after mysterious object shatters windshield midair. So I'm going to go ahead and play the news segment. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it afterwards, then talk about another incident that sounds very similar to this one.
First at 10, a United Airlines flight coming from Denver to LA diverts to Salt Lake City after an object struck the plane midair, shattering the windshield and injuring the pilot with glass shards. Investigators suspect it could have been space debris or even a small meteorite. Good evening to you. I'm Susan Hirasuna. Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf. He is outside LAX tonight after speaking exclusively with someone on board that flight.
A sky-high scare with urgent new questions raised by these photos in what crashed into a commercial airliner 36,000 feet above Utah.
When the pilot made his initial emergency broadcast, he told us that a window in the cockpit had shattered.
Heather Ramsey was recording the sunrise on Thursday's flight from Denver to LA when everything suddenly changed.
One flight attendant really raised her voice at the other and told her get back, get to the back of the aircraft, stop service.
Moments later, they quickly dropped 10,000 feet.
The pilot came on over the intercom and said, unfortunately, we have some bad news. The aircraft has collided with an object. Then he informed us we would have to make an emergency landing in Salt Lake City.
Heather held her phone tight through turbulence and fear, then the tense landing in Salt Lake.
I was looking out the window just thinking we could go down at any time. So it was really scary. We were all kind of holding our breath until the very end. You could definitely feel a tension on the entire aircraft.
This photo, now seen millions of times on X, shows the United Airlines pilot with apparent bruises and scratches to an arm with the plane's windshield busted. All 134 passengers safe and put on a new plane to LA, but what hit that aircraft almost 7 miles high remains a mystery.
That seems a little high for a bird to be, but people are saying, scrap metal, it could be space debris, we have drones.
The plane landed at LAX about 6 hours late. The odds of something like this happening, astronomical. According to the FAA, there's never been a space debris strike to a commercial airliner, and the chance of that happening is less than 1 trillion to 1. The NTSB releasing this statement Sunday, saying they're investigating a cracked windscreen while gathering radar, weather, and flight recorder data.
The pilot did a phenomenal job, both manning the aircraft after that happened and keeping composure.
And so a few days before this, it sounds like something similar happened to Pete Hegseth's plane. He had to make an unscheduled landing in the United Kingdom during a return flight headed for the United States because while they were mid-air, all of a sudden his plane's windshield started to crack. Now, there has not been many details released to the public regarding his flight, so we don't know if something crashed into his plane or it was just a faulty windshield. But given the fact that the two incidents happened only days apart while both planes were in cruising altitude, it's a very interesting quote-unquote coincidence to say the least. But this news story involving this United 737 is weird, and it definitely wasn't a bird because birds do not fly that high. Any bird in North America anyway. The only birds who fly that high is a griffon vulture. They fly up to 37,000 feet, but they're not found in North America. And also you would see some type of remnants of the bird, like dry blood or something along those lines. Whatever this object was, it looked like it hit the windshield frame and the extreme edge of the windshield, and then rode up into the edge of the sheet metal and then up and over the rest of the plane. Just very bizarre. And on top of all this, there's never been any confirmed cases of a meteorite or debris, like they're saying, ever hitting a commercial plane. But in other strange news, what is going on with all these outages? Are we seeing some type of cyber hack or something else altogether? I mean, they told us ahead of time when it came to Barack Obama's scripted movie, Leave the World Behind, and that other series on Netflix that came out the beginning of this year, we would see more and more outages. But a few days ago, on October 15th, YouTube had experienced a mass outage where over 1 million users had reported issues with YouTube, according to Down Detector. And then less than 24 hours later, PayPal and Venmo went down. And then around the same time, millions of Verizon users were impacted across multiple states because also Verizon went down. And now, only a couple days after those outages, Amazon Web Services, AWS, had a major global outage, which impacted and disrupted thousands of services anywhere from banking services to social networks to airline booking sites to online shopping. Millions of people worldwide were impacted. But get this, because this part is very interesting. This article goes on to say that among AWS many offerings is DynamoDB, a database that hosts information for companies, including customer data. Amazon said Monday that its customers couldn't access the data stored in DynamoDB because the domain name system, a kind of phone book for the internet, had encountered a problem. A cybersecurity expert and IT professor at the University of Notre Dame was quoted as saying Amazon had the data safely stored, but nobody else could find it for several hours, leaving apps temporarily separated from their data. It is as if large portions of the internet suffered temporary amnesia. What happens to be funny is that not too long ago, I said something very similar to this in a video that had to do about people in other countries entering certain countries in Europe. And upon doing so, they had to give up their biometric data to enter. And the airline said that we'll keep your biometric data stored for 3 years, and then we'll go ahead and delete it. And I said in that video, every so often, they're going to go ahead and say that they had some kind of outage where they lost your data, quote unquote, lost it, or they had some kind of cyber breach and somebody, quote unquote, stole your data. And all they're doing at the end of the day is feeding the beast with data. But in this instance, who knows what was truly removed or what they got rid of during this internet amnesia. And like with all these other outages very recently, nobody knows what caused this domain name systems outage. And this AWS outage brought down a lot of things on the internet temporarily. They're saying that this outage is the second biggest outage to happen since the CrowdStrike outage that happened last year. Remember that, when all the Windows computers went down and all roads led right back to the World Economic Forum, because CrowdStrike was something that was developed by the World Economic Forum. And they had shown by just the click of a button, they can bring down computers worldwide. But talking about very coincidental timing, only 2 days prior to this Amazon outage, this news came out. And reading this from CNET, Amazon's Ring cameras push deeper into police and government surveillance. Now, they have partnered with Flock Safety, and I had spoken about them previously in another video. Flock Safety wants drones everywhere with cameras. They want cameras on every corner. They want to have constant 24/7 surveillance on the public to 100% eliminate crime. And Amazon has partnered with them.
The positioning of this camera at the city limits of Normandy Park gives police a way to monitor vehicles that come and go while officers focus on other priorities.
The downtown area of Des Moines has high traffic, so if ever there was an incident, there's only a couple of roads or ways that you can get in or out of.
The cameras by Flock Safety read license plates, but can also identify unique features such as bumper stickers, and then compare that to a database of vehicles of interest to law enforcement.
As long as you're not breaking the law, you shouldn't have a problem.
In Normandy Park, police say the surveillance system can identify stolen vehicles or pinpoint those suspected of being used to commit some other crime. What about expanding camera networks intruding on privacy? And what does increased surveillance mean to the general public?
Where it goes too far is when they start using it and your information and it gets out and stolen.
The Homeowners Association in Federal Way has adopted the technology, as have the cities of Auburn, Mount Vernon, Sedro-Woolley, and others. Still, questions remain around who can access the data and safeguards to prevent security breaches.
It's human interactions with technologies that really determine whether it's beneficial or harmful.
I hate that argument so much. Well, if you're not a criminal, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't have a problem with this. Well, just allow the government, allow the police to just go into your home, set up cameras everywhere, and have them monitor you 24/7. You shouldn't have a problem with it since you have nothing to hide. But again, when it comes to Amazon and Flock, they are partnering with them specifically for the Ring cameras people set up on their homes. And this article goes on to say that less than 2 years after removing a feature that made it easier for law enforcement agencies to request footage from owners of Ring doorbells and other security products, Amazon has partnered with 2 companies that will help facilitate the same kind of request. They are also partnering with Axon, which builds tools for police and the military. Now, previously, Amazon Ring doorbell, it would go ahead and take video footage of your surrounding location of your home. But now, with Amazon's community request, your neighbor, your neighbor's neighbor, and so forth can see the front of your home, the front of your street, and so forth. Now, Amazon's website does say only local and county entities can have access to these community requests, but then they also go on to say that verified third parties such as Flock and Axon could have access to them too. And the website continues to make a good point under surveillance bystanders, and it goes on to say that while the footage from Ring devices is only given to local organizations by permission of the footage's owner, that doesn't mean other people, such as someone walking their dog or children playing in a neighborhood, are free from potential privacy issues if they are captured on camera. Ring footage availability opt-in still doesn't address the issue of what happens to footage once it's in the hands of law enforcement or other groups. It could be used for other investigations, shared with others, or perhaps even used to capture biometrics and personal information like facial recognition features. These videos might also end up revealing more about neighbors, visitors, or passerbys than about the actual incident itself. And again, this goes back to what Larry Ellison said, the now owner of TikTok and other things and other organizations. They're going to have cameras set up on every corner, whether it's people's homes, polls, and so forth, to make sure the public are on their best behavior. And if they're not, then there goes a strike against your digital ID and what you can access. You're walking down the street and something fell out of your hand accidentally and fell to the ground and you missed it. The cameras picked it up. Well, that's considered littering, and you're probably not going to be able to access your bank account for 24 hours. You jaywalked, you won't be able to access something else for 24 hours because, again, there will be a strike against your digital ID. This sounds every bit like 1984 on steroids, and 5 years ago, I would have thought that we would have seen something like this eventually, perhaps 2050, 2060, but they are quickly trying to usher in this 1984 digital beast system as fast as they can. Oh, and talking about the digital ID, people in Utah wake up, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's Utah, Nebraska, Indiana, it doesn't matter any of those states, because like I said previously, and others have said, the digital ID that we see over in the United Kingdom will definitely be here in the United States eventually in its full form. But it looks like Utah wants to be the very first state making the digital ID mandatory, and it's all about peace and security.
A big change could be coming to how you prove who you are. Utah State is considering rolling out a digital ID to help prove who you are in your online dealings. But with data breaches on the rise, Jim Spiewak asked if this can be a game changer for your online safety and security.
Everyone is born with identity.
You control your identity. You should control your digital identity.
Christopher Bramwell, Utah's chief privacy officer, is leading the state's effort to create a state-endorsed digital identity system, which would provide residents with a verified digital credential proving they are who they say they are.
So someone being able to pretend that they're me probably wouldn't happen.
The whole point of state-endorsed digital identity is to give you control of your identity so nobody can impersonate you.
Bramwell sees initial uses for digital identity for things like going through TSA or verifying identity for government services. But he also says demand is growing in the private sector.
Why wouldn't you just use an identity you control to log into services, and you don't have to worry about reset passwords?
Bramwell says once you receive your credential, the state won't know when you use it and it won't be tracked, but it would be stored securely in something like a digital wallet.
What do we tell people about why this will be secure?
Security is our top priority, but most importantly, how do you recover when there's a security breach without having to do reissuance of identity to everybody in the state?
Utah lawmakers passed Senate Bill 260 this year, which laid the baseline policy that gives individuals the right to digital identity, but not a mandate to opt in. Senator Kirk Cullimore was the bill's sponsor.
Everything is digital now. A lot of what we do, even in interacting with the state, is digital.
With AI advancing rapidly, Cullimore believes many technologies will soon require state endorsement.
Do you feel confident that what is in policy right now as we start to build this out is the most safe and secure?
The laws and the parameters to establish its safety and the security and the principles of freedom surrounding that are getting put into place.
Jim Spiewak, KUTV 2 News.
A couple years ago, you wouldn't really hear much news coming out of Utah. It wasn't really an eventful state, but now it seems like for whatever reason, it has become very eventful. Talking about this whole Charlie Kirk situation, Tyler Robinson, and now this whole digital ID stuff. It would seem like this whole Charlie Kirk incident would be their excuse to usher in this digital ID in Utah, which wouldn't be a surprise whatsoever. Well, if we had digital IDs and cameras everywhere, we could easily track Tyler Robinson. We would have known what he was talking about and the threats he was making, and we could have stopped September 10th before it had happened. I mean, I can see it. You can see it. Pup of Horror can see it. Tiffany Gomez can see it. We can all see it. But there'll be people out there that'll say, well, this is just a conspiracy theory. And it's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. We are well beyond that. It is here. This whole Charlie Kirk situation is going to also usher in other things that they have been wanting to usher in as well. I mean, we can see the Free People signature all over this, the number 33. The number 33 wasn't just how long they took to supposedly capture the suspect, even though his own father turned him in. The number 33 with the hats, the 4 + 7 3 times equals out to be 33. You have the governor saying he prayed for 33 hours. But even more bizarre is the fact that someone drove 33 hours to paint a mural of Charlie Kirk. And then as we have all these people on the left making light of what happened to Charlie Kirk, exactly 33 people had lost their jobs. I mean, how many times can you see the number 33 in one news story? It is not statistically possible. So there is a deeper meaning here, and we do have the Free People involvement. The Free People, their motto is order ab chaos, order out of chaos. They create the chaos, and then they go ahead and usher in the order by any means necessary. So what happened to Charlie Kirk will definitely play a role in Utah ushering in the digital ID. And these other states, they'll be like, well, it worked out for Utah. It worked out perfectly for Utah. Now there's lower crime and you can access easier things online and so forth. So we're also going to go ahead and usher it in here, usher it in there. And make no mistake about it, we're going to see more suspicious incidents with rabbit holes that lead to nowhere, perfectly designed to have you go down in them, and there'll be no outcome. But the only outcome is that it'll lead to a digital ID. Just like how chemtrails and them spraying things in the skies was one big conspiracy theory, but now out of nowhere, they are more open with it than ever before, telling people they are spraying Satan in the skies, which they have been doing for quite some time with barium and aluminum, which means Baal. They are literally spraying Baal in the skies, and now over in the United Kingdom, they're spraying Satan. They're spraying the name of demons in the skies. I found this video to be very interesting. The speaker, her name is Kristen Megan, and everything she said back then is 100% true. And everything she said back then was considered a quote-unquote conspiracy theory. But today, everything she says, they are admitting to, and they have no problems admitting to it because they know nobody's going to do anything about it.
My job in the U.S. Air Force was working in bioenvironmental engineering. Part of my job in tracking the health hazards was to look at any time someone wanted to buy a chemical. It was ordered through a system, and in that system I had to go in there and say, you know, the country we're in, we're not allowed to use this. We need to substitute it out with something a little less hazardous. I want to say around 2006 I started kind of opening my eyes to how the military wasn't really what I thought it was, and people approached me knowing what I did for a living and said, have you ever heard of chemtrails? Well, I hadn't. So I went online and I looked at chemtrails. I saw a lot of, debunking, a lot of sites that were just kind of calling it a conspiracy theory. And I thought, well, geez, this is what I do for a living. Preventive health, making sure that people are not getting sick. To summarize it, in an attempt to debunk this conspiracy theory as I thought it was, I didn't debunk it. It literally changed my life. One day I was going through that computer system, which if you want to look it up, it's called an Air Force Form 3952. It is the approval of hazardous materials. I was finding tons and tons of large quantities of aluminum, barium, strontium in the forms of oxides and sulfates. One of the legal requirements in approving these is looking at what used to be called the material safety data sheets. On that sheet, it's going to list the manufacturer. These electronic MSDSs did not have a manufacturer name, so I asked the question, what is this being used for? I never got an answer, so I didn't approve it. And then the heat came down. Why are you behind on your 3952s? And at that point, my demonization began, because I thought, if this is real and they are spraying this, it's going to get to the ground. So I conducted air sampling, I conducted soil sampling, and I was getting high levels of these contaminants. When I started asking the question again under a new commander, I never in my life thought I would have somebody look me in the face and tell me, I am questioning you. Is there something wrong with you? You've been looking really depressed lately. I can put you under mental evaluation for up to 120 days. Who would take care of your daughter? As soon as I heard that, I knew. And I thought, I've spent 9 years of my life trying to protect human health. And here we are violating law after law after law. Instead of protecting the people, we are poisoning the people. And that geoengineering is occurring. It's been occurring. It is not new. And your tax dollars are funding this. I've had pilots come forward. I've had people come forward that actually load the canisters on the planes. These people don't come forward because they are afraid that they're going to end up like Snowden. So many people want to ask why. Why is this occurring? From weather modification to weather weaponry. There's numerous reasons under Agenda 21 and tons of theories. So I just want everyone to know and understand that of all things, of all the freedoms that we are losing, geoengineering is the #1 issue that we are facing, because you can have guns and money and you can have everything. If you don't have food and water and you are dying of respiratory or neurological illnesses, what does it matter?
So we can hear things like this and we can actually see it. We can see it with our own eyes by just going outside. The question happens to be, well, what can we do to stop it? And the thing is, pretty soon with this whole digital ID, we won't be able to pretty much talk about it. And if you don't comply, you're probably not going to have access to YouTube and these other social media sites anyway.
That takes screenshots of everything you do every few seconds comes built in with Windows 11. This is real. Microsoft even bragged about it, and it's some Black Mirror in real life. But there is a way you can unplug from this mass surveillance operation that Bill Gates probably doesn't want you to do. So if you're watching this anytime after October 14th, 2025, Microsoft has officially ended support for Windows 10 after 10 long and faithful years, RIP. Which doesn't mean it's not going to work anymore, but over time it's going to become more prone to incompatibility issues, viruses, and other unfixable errors, kind of forcing everyone, myself included, to switch to Windows 11, which Microsoft announced has a built-in program called Recall, powered by their AI Copilot assistant, that explicitly states it takes an image of your screen every few seconds to sort of act as a browser history, but for all of your PC activity. Yup, even your offline sessions are going to be tracked, meaning you can sort of rewind and search through everything you've ever done on your computer using AI, which is kind of cool, but also kind of creepy. Microsoft claims the AI will run entirely locally, so like inside your computer, not on some remote cloud server that they have access to. And the screenshots will also be stored only on your own computer in an encrypted file. I mean, if you think you can take their word for it, sure, no judgment, but you really never know with tech giants these days. And it still does give actual hackers an easy way to access everything you've ever done on your computer. Everything. Luckily, you can opt out of this feature if you want, so be careful when installing it, as they probably hid it inside some recommended settings option that 90% of people are just going to choose. And in case you already upgraded to Windows 11, there is a way you can disable it at a root level. Here are the instructions. Screenshot it, save this video. You're welcome.
And does anybody out there truly believe that you can freely just go ahead and turn off and on that feature on Windows 11? I mean, whether you turn it off or on, the choice is still made for you that it's always going to constantly be on regardless.
Cool, Follow me.